Today, we're going to be taking a look at a bunch of FNAF games that literally break the fourth wall and talk directly to the player. All of the games in today's video are incredibly creepy and use you as the player to tell their stories. Sit back and relax because these were some of the coolest FNAF games I've ever played. As I continue to make videos talking about Five Nights at Freddy's games, as each week goes by, I grow more and more nervous that I will eventually run out of interesting games to talk about. Obviously, the next choice would be to start talking about random horror games until new FNAF titles are released. However, recently I found a FNAF fan game I have never heard of before, a game so interesting I couldn't help but get sucked right into it. The game we'll be talking about today is Night Watch at Freddy's, a FNAF fan game that pretends to be an official demo of the original Five Nights at Freddy's games, but is really hiding some incredibly dark secrets. Stick around because you're not going to want to miss out on this one. This is truly one of the most interesting FNAF games I will ever talk about on this channel. So sit back, relax, and join me today as we dive into the depraved world of Night Watch at Freddy's. Night Watch at Freddy's does not begin in the way a normal FNAF game typically begins. I've actually never seen any FNAF game start in the same way that Night Watch at Freddy's does. Upon pressing start, we're greeted to the night screen, where you can already see something interesting. You have the classic live system that was originally supposed to be in the first Five Nights at Freddy's. But let's pause for a second and back way the fuck up. Take a look at this title screen. Do you notice anything strange? Well, if you said that the creator of the game's name looks a bit weird, then you'd be correct. It says the creator's name is Scott Cawthorn, clearly an alternate version of Scott Cawthon. But that's not where it ends. Right next to the name, we can see the year 2014. Spoiler alert, this game was released in 2025. Let's cut to the chase of why I wanted to talk about this game, as clearly there's something weird going on. Night Watch at Freddy's explores an alternate timeline where the original Five Nights at Freddy's game took a significant turn from what we know them as today. Wow, I hear you say. That's a super interesting idea for a FNAF game. Tell me, who could come up with something as interesting as that? Well, the answer to that question is pretty damn cool. This game's lead director is Avocado Dreams, the same person who's responsible for Graveyard Shift at Freddy's and the remnants of Tubbyland, both of which I've covered on this channel, and you should definitely go check out those videos after this one. But for now, let's continue. Knowing that this game is supposed to be a demo for what the first official FNAF game was intended to be. Of course, since this is an alternate timeline of the official FNAF games, in this alternate universe, Scott actually did end up including the live system that was left out of the official games. And you'll notice plenty more details just like this. For example, there's actually a fake alternate version of the classic Scott Games website, Scott Productions. The team responsible for this game really went all out. This is one of the coolest experiences I've ever seen in my entire time working on FNAF stuff. Before we load into the office, we get to see a developer note talking about Night 1. Keep in mind, Night Watch at Freddy's is pretending to be a demo, so notes like these are pretty common. Welcome to Night Watch at Freddy's, or at least the prototype of it. Some things are still subject to change. For right now though, you can play through what's done of the game and get a feel for how it's going to end up. Night 1 begins, and we of course get a phone call from this game's phone guy. He gives the basic Night 1 spiel that we're all used to. However, he does mention how the breaker and power systems work. Of course, that's my job, so I'm going to be doing that instead. A few things you'll immediately notice about this game. The first, and in my opinion, biggest outlier is how the doors behave. You'll notice that they're already closed from the beginning of the night. You can open the doors and flash the hallways, and doing so increases your usage. Your light especially, but we'll talk about that more once we get into the characters. Moving on to your cameras, you'll notice another scrapped feature from the official games is present here, that being the original camera buttons, where they were originally intended to be circles that would project the direction they were actually facing in the building. Such a super small, cool detail, but if there's anything Avocado Dreams is good at, it's attention to detail. Only one animatronic is introduced on Night 1, that character being Bonnie. Of course, this is an alternative FNAF 1 after all, so keeping the overall order of the character introduction does make sense. Bonnie, as I'm sure you could have guessed, is pretty simple to deal with overall. Bonnie's goal is to get to your left door, exactly how he does in the original. However, the way you deal with him is different, and he also introduces a new mechanic in the form of points into the game. Once Bonnie reaches your left hallway, staring at him on the cameras will stall him. This will become integral once we start talking about another character that gets introduced. While you're stalling Bonnie, you will get 5 points around every 0.5 seconds. So the longer you watch him, the longer he doesn't move, and the more points you obtain. Something additional to note are your lives. If you are to lose all of them, you don't have to start all the way back on night 1. Instead, your points will just get reset to 0. On top of that, after every completed night, you will gain 1 life. Anyways, back to talking about Bonnie. Once Bonnie reaches your door, you have to open it and hold your light on him until he goes away, which will happen pretty quickly, thankfully, because as I've said before, the lights will absolutely ramp up your breaker stress. Once Bonnie leaves, you'll want to close the door again. Oh my god, oh my fucking god, oh my fucking god, it runs. My chest, dude. Oh my god, don't do that ever again. Dang. No thanks. This mechanic does bring up an interesting and pretty scary point. The doors are closed by default, and if you don't open the door and flash Bonnie when he is there, he will jump scare you. So that brings up the terrifying realization. Bonnie is strong enough to open the door if he really wanted to. Put yourself in the shoes of the night god for a second. If that doesn't scare the absolute piss and shit out of you, I don't know what will. But aside from that, that's all Bonnie does. Something additional I do want to point out about Bonnie is how fucked up and gross he looks. Why are his ears down like that? Tell me that's not disgusting. Dogs put their ears down when they know they did something bad, and cats put their ears down when they're about to do something bad. So what the hell does a bunny with its ears down mean? That I'm about to get back shots? Probably, and I don't want that. Nice job getting past the first night. Still wondering what I should do with that raccoon. If anyone has any ideas, please let me know. Night 2's phone call just explains one of the new characters. Additionally, Phone Guy says he's going to drop the script the company wants him to read and instead just tell some stories during the phone calls, which he doesn't end up doing this time around. However, towards the end of the call, his dog runs into a fucking door like a moron, and then he ends the call to go take it for a walk. I think that's supposed to be a hint for one of the characters this night introduces, because I have no idea what else that could be. Like the official FNAF 1, Night 2 introduces 2 new threats, Foxy and Chica. Let's go over Chica first, since she's pretty much just Bonnie with a small difference. She will do the same thing that Bonnie does, except she'll go to the right door instead. Same thing goes. Staring at her in the right hall will stall her, and while you stall her, you'll gain points. However, the difference with Chica is how you deal with her once she reaches your door. You still have to open it, but instead of holding the light on her, you have to flash your light at her. Now, come in real close and let me give you a little tip about clicking on things in almost any Click Team Fusion game. The way Click Team seems to register clicks can be delayed depending on your mouse position. I actually first noticed this during my playthrough of Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. a few months ago. If you keep your mouse stationary and click on something really fast, Click Team will not register every click you make. However, if you click, move your mouse slightly really fast, and then click again, then it will register every click. This is exactly how you can get Chica to go away really fast. If you jitter click your mouse and whip around the cursor in a small enough area over the lever, you will flash the light really fast, making Chica leave faster. Fun fact, you can also use this clicking method to ring the bell on your desk really fast and make your grandma's tinnitus act up. But you didn't hear that from me. The other character this night introduces is Foxy, who for some reason is gender swapped in this game. Not really sure on that decision. Maybe Foxy was going to be a girl in the official games, but Scott changed it, and this game is drawing from that. Or who knows, maybe Avocado Dreams just wanted a female Foxy. Either way, it's not really important. Foxy almost works the same way she does in the original. She still has multiple phases she will go through before charging at your office. However, I'm unsure if being on the camera stalls her this time around. After she gets to her final phase and disappears to charge at your office, you'll have to check Pirate's Cove and look at her sign to see which door she's charging at, since yes, she can attack both. Once you know which door she's going to attack, all you have to do is open that door and wait for her to arrive. She'll lean in and yell at you before running back to her cove. From there, you can just close the door and easy peasy lemon dick, she's been dealt with. Keeping this one short since I haven't really been feeling the best lately. The more I work on this project, the more I feel like it's not aligning with what I've learned over the years. The overall themes are just... I guess it's just something I'll have to get used to. Hopefully it won't impact development too much. Also, I keep getting questions on how to deal with the golden Freddy. The statue in the entrance doesn't move. There's not even any coding for it to move. I don't understand what you all are talking about. Night 3's phone call is an interesting one. It begins with the phone guy telling us about his dog running into the door. Idiot ass dog. Cats are way better anyways. He starts talking about the new character, a puppet, and about how it really creeps him out. You can tell by the sound in his voice that he really doesn't like this thing.
Dog. It freaks me out.
He explains how to deal with it and abruptly ends the call by yelling at us to not let it out of our sight. So, as I'm sure you could have guessed, the new threat on this night is the puppet, which I'm sure you already knew was not in the original FNAF 1. So, how is this character going to work? Well, it's probably one of the most nerve-wracking, stressful, and anxiety-inducing characters in the entire game. Occasionally, you will hear a sound cue, one that I can't really describe with words. It's really weird. Anyways, when you hear it, the puppet will appear on one of 4 cameras at the bottom of the map at random. It will either be in the bathroom, the show stage, the party room, or the kitchen. You will have to find which 4 of these cameras it's on and hold the stop button like a music box to make it go away. If you don't do this in time, the puppet is going to plow on that pussy. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with me, bro? Oh my God. Put me in a fucking cage, dude. Overall, it doesn't add anything too crazy to the mix so far. Your strategy at this point should be watching Foxy and the 2 halls, staring at Bonnie or Chica to desync the 2 from attacking at the same time, and whenever you hear the sound cue, go deal with the puppet. Overall, not too bad, but night 4 is when things really start to ramp up. This is getting a bit crazy. I thought adding more depth would increase the replayability, but it's honestly overwhelming. Maybe I'll just change it so Freddy only appears during the power outage, but that might be a bit lame. Time will tell, I guess. I'm worried that having so many different things to do might be too much. Also, added the ability to ring the bell on the desk. Thank Lane for that idea. Night 4's phone call gets pretty serious. The phone guy explains that the animatronics are not acting right at all, going places they shouldn't be going, snapping their jaws shut, which they shouldn't even be programmed to do. He mentions Freddy specifically, and how one time before showtime, they found him in the garage of the building, staring at the main power breaker. So yeah, that sounds like bad news bears. Get it? Bears? Like Freddy because he's yeah, you get it. Night 4 introduces this game's final threat. Obviously, it's Freddy. And Freddy ties this game's loop together by single-handedly being the most stressful character in the entire game and making every other character feel 10 times more stressful than they already were. Just like the puppet, Freddy will occasionally laugh. When he does, that signifies that he has moved cameras. Freddy can move between only 5 cameras, and getting to your office is not a concern of his. When he moves off the show stage, he will either go to the bathrooms, the party room, the back room, or the kitchen. If at any point you hear him move and you can't find him on any 4 of those cameras, then that means he's moved to the garage. The garage camera, of course, has no video feed. So the only way to know for sure if Freddy is in there is by checking the 4 other possible cameras he can be in. When you know he's in the garage, you will be able to use the garage's camera scanner. The scanner will then shock the absolute living shit out of him and make him piss off. If you don't shock him fast enough, he will punch the shit out of your breaker and you will completely lose power. So there you go. There is every single character at the same time. Can you see how stressful this could be? Having to constantly watch Foxy, having to balance stalling Bonnie and Chica, balancing your power usage and your camera usage and the power aids that will happen when you use your lights, and on top of that, having 2 characters that will require you to, at random, play a stupid fucking find them on the camera mechanic game. While having one of those bullshit characters also mixing in a small music box mechanic at the same time. Does that sound a little bit overwhelming? If you said yes, that's because it kind of is. But in all honesty, I love this gameplay loop. Sure, I'm not a fan of the find them on the camera mechanics at all. But somehow, this game manages to make every single action you do feel satisfying. It's really hard to put into words, and I would highly recommend you check this game out for yourself. Or ideally, watch my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Link in the description. Nothing really to mention here. I'm just so unsure of everything revolving around this project right now. The ideas are definitely there. I'm proud of the models, the atmospheres in place, but something still feels so off. I'm really unsure if people will enjoy this, especially with how grim the story is. When I explained the story to my mom, she went pale and just asked me, "What are you thinking?" Just a few weeks ago, I'd have had the answer. Now I'm not so sure. Is this really something anyone would want? Would a story like this really be part of his plan for me? I don't know. I guess it just really goes to show I'm out of my depth completely. There's one more thing I want to try. There's only one way to find out if I'll be satisfied with it though. Night 5 introduces nothing new, just being a harder version of Night 4. But it's clear from the developer notes that the dev is really starting to doubt themselves. And trust me, the phone guy is having a mental breakdown as well.
Hey, glad to hear that you're alright. I was worried since, you see, there's sort of something I've been wanting to tell you, and it's kinda... Oh. Okay, no, I can't do this anymore, dude. Everything's gone wrong, and I think I know why. On your first night, I told you about a birthday party that went bad way back, yeah? I was keeping quiet on the details. It's a sensitive subject around here, but during the party, the animatronics started going crazy. Kind of like they've been recently, and before anyone knew what happened, the power went out. Kids were screaming, parents were running around, and we were doing everything we could to get the lights back on. But by the time we did, the birthday boy was gone. We couldn't find him anywhere, and no power meant no cameras, so we didn't have any leads. Not until our night guard didn't clock in for his shift. He hadn't missed a single shift before then, and he would have known exactly how the camera systems worked, so people filled in the blanks. Started a manhunt. Management tried to forget the whole thing, but the town sure didn't. And now it's looking like it's only gonna get worse. I swear I'm seeing things that aren't there, hearing sounds on the walls, and that puppet thing keeps vanishing. I don't know why the animatronics are moving, but all of this, there's only one explanation I could think of. That kid's still here, like his ghost or something. I think it's responsible for everything that's happened since then. And deep down, maybe you're thinking the same thing. That's the only reason I can think of for why you keep coming back. Maybe you know something I don't, but here's the facts, man. This place isn't safe anymore. I'm taking my last paycheck and getting out of here. I'd suggest you do the same, but it seems you're pretty dead set on whatever it is you're trying to do. But I'm sorry I wasn't completely honest with you. No one else believed me, and look, I can't do much to make it up to you, but I know this place that serves some good drinks, and the food's pretty great. Had no animatronics either. Just, give me a call tomorrow if you're up for it. My treatment. It's the least I could do. Good luck.
After completing Night 5, we get our paycheck as usual. But of course, if you've ever seen any FNAF game in your entire life before, then you'd know we're not quite done yet. Going back to the title screen, we'll see we've unlocked the Overtime Night. And surprisingly, it is not just a harder version of Night 5. Overtime Night starts with a phone call, not from the phone guy we've been hearing so far. If you remember, he said he was quitting, and exactly that he did. The phone call we get tonight is from a woman, talking about how employees have been spreading rumors about the animatronics and monsters, all of which we know is true. She says that all employees who have been spreading these rumors will be docked pay, which I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure that's illegal. And with that, Overtime Night begins. Let's just start by getting one thing out of the way. This night is stressful. However, it's really fun. The entire game is really fun. When I first heard this game was made by Avocado Dreams, I was really scared it was going to be incredibly fucking hard like Graveyard Shift and Remnants of Tubbyland. But to my surprise, while yes, this game definitely isn't easy, there is very little RNG that is overwhelming. and I was actually able to complete this night. Overtime Night introduces one final threat, which this game calls Jailbird. Jailbird is not at all a hard threat to deal with. I feel like she serves more as a nuisance character that you need to spend time on more than a threat that will actually get you killed. Editor, don't you dare think about playing the clip where I died to her. You know full well I died there because I didn't fully understand how she worked yet. Don't even start with me, Buster. You're on thin ice, bitch! Oh! Oh! What the fuck was that thing? Whoa. What the hell was that thing? Jailbird will wander around your cameras in an attempt to get to your garage. When she gets to the garage, she'll start to open the garage's door. When it opens, she will, for some reason, be at the front door to your office, which up until this point has never been used. If you take a look at the map, I'm not entirely sure how her opening up the garage door makes her end up here. That doesn't make much sense to me, and is why I didn't fully understand her at first. Editor, piece of shit! When you know she's behind that door, you will have to quickly spam open and close your camera. This will make her slowly emerge from behind the door and eventually leave your office. How does this make sense whatsoever? I have no idea. Don't question it. Boss character, hooray, weird shit. This night is very fast-paced, but because of the way all of the mechanics in this game work together, it serves to be an incredibly satisfying and enjoyable night overall. The difficulty is definitely high, but it is in no way overwhelming like some of Avocado Dream's other games, which I, as someone who is dog shit at FNAF games, can really appreciate. Of course, you also have your custom night, but on top of that, after beating Overtime, you get access to Aggressive Mode, an optional setting you can use to play through the entire game again, with all of the characters having movement opportunities more often. I, for obvious reasons, did not try to complete this mode. However, I know there are some people crazy enough to complete it, and I congratulate all of you who were able to, because watching playthroughs of Aggressive Mode is actually insane. And of course, it wouldn't be a FNAF game without some secrets and Easter eggs, so we might as well cover those as well, right? The first Easter egg is a Golden Freddy Easter egg. I'm not totally sure how it's pulled off, but just taking a look at the video I found, it seems like you need to flip your camera up and down a few times, then sit on the show stage camera. Golden Freddy should start reciting a Bible verse. Interestingly enough, the Bible verse he's saying is about Hebrews who created a golden calf to worship right before they were freed by God, Exodus 32:31. Afterwards, when you pull the camera down, you'll get this jump scare. In one of the earlier dev notes, the developer mentions a raccoon character that they didn't know what to do with. So during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I thought the final character in the Overtime night was going to be this raccoon, but obviously I was wrong. However, there is a chance you can find these renders of him throughout the game. But as far as I'm aware, that's all Night Watch at Freddy's has to offer. I'm pretty confident that we will be getting more games in this series, since it seems the developers' dive into turmoil is only just beginning. And you better believe I'll be around when and if those sequels or prequels come out. Overall, I think Night Watch at Freddy's has become my favorite Avocado Dreams fan project. And no, that's not just because it was the only one I've been able to beat. I think the idea for the story is incredibly unique. The character designs are great, the game mechanics are literally amazing, and every character works together so well. And of course, it doesn't rely too much on RNG. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this is easily the worst fan game Avocado Dreams has ever worked on? Let me know in the comments below. In my FNAF 2 Reimagined video, I asked you guys what official FNAF game you'd want to see reimagined next, and my favorite answer was everybody who said FNAF 3. FNAF 3 is easily my least favorite official Click Team FNAF game, and I would want nothing more than to see it remade and have it be amazing. 2025 has been a crazy year for Five Nights at Freddy's fan games so far. We've had incredible titles such as Banshee, Five Nights at Frederick's, and Freddy's Reanimated. It's honestly incredible to see how much this community is thriving after 11 years of the original game's release. Somehow, people are still able to take the original concept and add new and unique experiences to it. and are somehow able to retell the same story in a way that's interesting every single time. It really goes to show just how much love this community has for the original source material. Today, we're going to be looking at one of the newest FNAF fan games to release, one that has built up a lot of hype and certainly lived up to it, with mechanics so unique that I've never seen before. So join me today as we dive into the twisted world of Locked at Freddy's. Locked at Freddy's begins with an opening cutscene. We introduce ourselves as Elliot Woods, and we begin to tell the story of the most terrorizing night of our entire lives, starting with us taking a job offer at Freddy Fazbear's as a security job. When we pull up to the building, we notice a purple car parked outside. Thinking nothing of it, we walk inside the building and get knocked out by a man in a bunny suit. Wake up. Oh shit! So this is about to be cool. Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? We wake up inside of a springlock suit. By completing a quick time-based minigame, we escape certain death, only to realize the real amount of trouble we're actually in. The man who attacked us, presumably William Afton, begins talking to us through the intercom system. He tells us what we're in, and that if we can survive until 6 a.m., we might get, quote, something special. I'm hoping it's that rabbit deer. Oh, Jesus Christ. And with that, the night begins. Something we need to immediately get out of the way is that this game, technically speaking, only has one night. However, the way a normal FNAF game would call a night, Locked at Freddy's calls an hour. So each hour of the night basically acts as its own night. I made that sound way more complicated than it actually is, but who cares? Let's start by talking about the main mechanic that you're going to be aware of, that being the springlock suit attached to your bones. Whenever you move in this game, that meaning looking from side to side, a small indicator bar in the bottom left corner will detect your movement. If it fills up all the way to the top, you will die. At first, I thought this was going to be the most devastating mechanic ever introduced into any FNAF game ever. However, during my playthrough, I figured out how it actually works. This bar increases based on how much X-axis movement your mouse has. So if you slowly turn from one side of the office to another, it will increase very quickly. However, if you were to say, whip your mouse to one side of the screen really fast so that the screen has to catch up to your mouse's position, since you didn't move your mouse for very long, the bar will not increase very much at all. So this is definitely the route to go. Two more interesting mechanics that go along with the springlock suit. First, when you open the camera, the bar will pause wherever it's at. This means if your bar is halfway increased and you open the camera, even though your player isn't moving, the bar will not decrease like it usually does when you're not moving. And only once you pull the camera down will it begin to decrease. The final, pretty poopy mechanic the springlock suit brings takes place when you interact with the doors. The doors in this game work the same as the doors in FNAF 4. That being, you have to manually hold them closed. There is also a big lever next to the door you can pull to shine a light in the hall. Now, this final amazing and not ass-clenching mechanic has everything to do with interacting with these two very important pieces of the game. If you interact with either the light lever or the door itself whilst your movement bar is yellow, you will be entered into the springlock minigame from the beginning of the game, and if you fail it, you lose. Now, completing this minigame isn't difficult. What's so annoying about having to do it is knowing that if you're needing to close the door, you probably don't have time to sit and do a minigame. Is this mechanic cool? Yes, I think it is, but that doesn't stop it from making me want to ride a bike with no seat. Now, with that out of the way, we can actually talk about the first threat this game introduces. Bonnie. What? Oh god, oh god. Why is he wearing a hat? Who gave him the fucking hat? Oh my god, look at how fast that power goes down. Of course, he's probably the most basic character of the roster, but that's typically how he is, and that's just how we like him. I'm kind of breathable a little bit. Oh my god, dude, what's wrong with me? Bonnie will quietly make his way to your left door, and let me be clear, him not making noise is a big deal, as sound cues are going to be very important throughout this game. Once Bonnie reaches your door, all you have to do is hold it closed. You will hear him bang on the door and then start breathing really hard like your mom does when she walks up a flight of stairs at a below reasonable pace. Once he starts breathing, you're free to let go of the door. However, if you ever turn the light on while he's at the door breathing, you will get eviscerated. After completing 12 a.m., 1 a.m. will begin, because that's how time works. Insane that I have to explain this to you. During the chat with William, he explains how we're the second person to be in this game. When asked who the first is, William responds that his name was Michael, and that he's currently in the back room stuffed inside of a suit. Some of the most brutal stuff, let me tell you. But before we can ask any more questions, he tells us that someone new is activating and the hour really begins. This hour introduces Chica, who does not act the same as Bonnie in the slightest, which is honestly really nice to see. Chica, of course, attacks your right door, except she actually is much more aggressive. Much more of a dom, which I would usually be chill with, except unfortunately for me, this is the ugly Chica, not bad bitch toy Chica. Once Chica gets to your door, unlike Bonnie, she is actually kind enough to leave us a sound cue. When you hear it, you will need to hold the door closed. She will then start pounding on it like your mom pounds down Twinkies. Whenever you hear the pounding stop, you must quickly open the cameras and use the alarm button I haven't mentioned so far. When you use the alarm button, an alarm will play. Who would have thought? And it will go off for 10 seconds. Use this once Chica stops banging to scare her away from your office. It doesn't matter which camera you use it on either, so that's really fortunate for us, the player. This game will eventually become pretty intense, and that will become more apparent once you notice how different each character really is. During the next phone call, William tells us the story of the children, how he murdered all 5 of them and placed their bodies into the suits so that the police wouldn't find them, explaining that the company shut down because of this and that he got away with it. He mentioned that there was still one single thing that could put a wrench in his plans, but he says he locked her in a box. I want you to keep this line in mind, as it will become very important later. For now, we have to talk about a new threat. This new threat is Foxy, a character I honestly thought was going to be a whole lot worse than he actually was. Foxy does exactly what you think he does. He has multiple stages he will move through in Pirate's Cove before charging at your door. This time around, however, he can attack either side, needing you to rely on sound cues to figure out which side he'll try to hit. Once you know which side he's on, all you have to do is hold the door closed. When you hear him bang on it, quickly turn the light on to scare him away from the door and he'll run back to Pirate's Cove like a little piss baby. Something really good to note about Foxy is that he really doesn't demand your attention at all, and that was a surprise to me. Unlike in FNAF 1, where watching Foxy on the camera stalls him, he will move at the same rate whether you're looking at him or not in this game. So all you really have to do is listen out for his sound cue and you'll be well in the clear. Just hope he doesn't attack when Bonnie is breathing, because if he does, then say goodbye to your anus because you're not getting it back. During the hour 4 phone call, Elliot calls William out for being an idiot, because what does killing 5 kids do for anyone? William turns into a piss baby and pulls some pain levels of, "You don't know the kind of pain I've been through," emo antagonist. William says he lost everything, and that the most important thing in his life got taken away. Knowing the FNAF lore, he's probably referring to his daughter. When Elliot asks how killing children fixes that, William deflects and the hour begins. Freddy is the next threat introduced. Freddy, of course, has to introduce my least favorite mechanic of all time. Occasionally, throughout the night, Freddy will laugh as loud as he possibly can like the asshole at the movie theater. When he does, do you want to take a wild stab at what you have to do? If you said find him on the fucking cameras, you'd be right, god damn it! Once you find Freddy on the cameras, you will have to play the alarm on whichever camera he is at, which will make him leave. But of course, as I'm sure you could have guessed, this does bring up another issue. Now we have 2 characters that make use of the same mechanic, and this mechanic has a very long 10-second cooldown. So let's imagine a sick and twisted scenario where Freddy does a little giggle. Okay, it's time to go look for him. So you do exactly that. Just then, the moment you press the alarm button, Chica starts blowing up your door's asshole like the 4th of July. Well, shit. Let's hope Chica takes a long time to start pounding on my glass, because otherwise she's gonna start pounding on my ass. Luckily for us, however, it does appear this was thought about while the game was being designed, because after Chica finishes pounding on your door, she usually won't start pounding on your window for a couple seconds. And in all honesty, there's nothing more satisfying in this game than using the alarm to take care of Freddy and Chica at the same time. Two birds, one stone type shit. The 4 a.m. phone call has William turn into the Joker, talking about a brand new toy he's created in the workshop. Says he made it specifically for occasions like this. What could he be talking about, I hear you ask? Great question, dear, honest, innocent, and defenseless viewer. Allow me to answer that burning question for you. Going into the workshop where you can find the corpse of Michael, Chip will jump onto the camera. Literally, this motherfucker got hops. Kinda like your mom in the drive-thru at Taco Bell. Seriously, you tell her, vamos a Taco Bell y pidamos todo, and she starts hopping. You wanna take a solid guess as to what this guy introduces? If you said my second least favorite mechanic, ding ding ding, you'd be exactly right. Chip introduces a music box mechanic. If you're not winding it throughout the night, he'll insert his entire forearm inside of you. But Chip is an animal, and I know a lot of you guys are furries, so you might actually enjoy that. Freaks. You're all freaks. Freaks! During the hour 5 chat, we call William a bitch. We tell him he's hiding from us. And when we say that, he gets an idea that we're not going to be a huge fan of. Nothing new is added during this hour, except I just lied straight to your face. Within the first minute of the hour, you can hear a car pulling up outside of the building, and William himself enters. The fuck was that horn? Who's this car I'm hearing? Is he here? He's already here. The yellow rabbit can come from any side. Close the door and wait for it to leave. Every knock the door affects the spring locks. If you hear the sound of the wind-up toy, prepare for an attack. What? That's right. The final threat introduced is William himself in the spring lock costume, who, spoiler alert, is the guy that knocked us out at the beginning of the game. I know, crazy, hard to believe, right? So let's ask ourselves, is his mechanic going to be fun? Well, it's actually pretty unmemorable, honestly. William will make his way to either one of your doors at random. When he arrives, he will make a sound cue to let you know he's there. How kind! Once he's at your door, all you have to do is hold it closed and he'll give it that Chica treatment, pounding on it by slapping it with his big fat stupid balls. However, something a little bit different from Chica is that his big fat stupid balls are so powerful that they will actually cause your spring lock meter to increase every time he bangs on the door. And while sure, that may sound cool, but due to the fact that you won't be moving your mouse during this because it's sitting on the door holding it closed, it really only serves to look cool and make William feel intimidating way more than it serves to actually be a mechanic. But that's about it. Beat this night and you're home free. Oh wait. Shit. William, what are you doing here? Hey, buddy, stay back. You stink like shit. Hey, don't you take one more step. Hey, don't you do it.
Now, you'll be trapped here forever. But I am you. I see you in the darkness.
What the fuck? So yeah, we got killed by William even though we won, and were stuffed into the Chip suit, which is clearly what he meant when he said he made Chip specifically for situations like this. Soon after, we're given the message, you can fix everything, find castle, with a crayon drawing of a castle shown. This is honestly really appreciated. I personally have no problem with the true ending of a game being a little out of the way, as long as it doesn't require me to repeat a massive section of the game, if not the entire game all over again. Secret of the fucking mimic! So this game actually giving us a massive hint on how to find it is actually really refreshing. Going back to 5 a.m., if you go to camera 5 and click on the castle drawing, you will be thrown into a night minigame. And now I get to talk about it because this minigame was actually pretty fun. Upon loading into the minigame, you will learn the two most important mechanics, attacking and not attacking. Whenever you attack, you will swing a little lance, and whenever you don't attack and are moving, your curse meter will go up. If your curse meter increases too high, it will turn yellow and you won't be able to attack. Does this remind you of something? Because it should, as it's literally a metaphor as to what we're going through. We are in a suit, but instead of it being armor, it's a spring lock. Whenever we move, our danger increases and prevents us from using our only means of defense. And spoiler alert, the rest of this minigame is a metaphor as well. Very early on, we walk past a big purple locked door. Obviously, we'll have to come back to this eventually, so keep it in mind. Continuing to travel, we enter a room with our first boss battle. Being unable to fight this one, it's completely about not being seen. Hide behind pillars as he passes so that we aren't noticed. At the end of the hall, we see a child locked inside of a cage, and it's our job to free them. We see it's locked via a code, and we have to count the numbers of each colored balloon to get it. Don't question it, it's a FNAF game, it's weird, it's dumb, whatever, just move on. Afterwards, getting the key to the cage and freeing the child. This obviously being a metaphor for saving one of the missing children. The next boss we face is a bit more difficult, Brute. He has a shield and we can only strike when it's down. This weird, sad-looking bunny cloud above our head will occasionally take a piss and we have to dodge the stream. Meanwhile, hentai tentacles will occasionally come up from the ground. Dodging these is actually kind of difficult as the way they move is completely random, so this fight was a bit frustrating. After beating Brute, we get another key and save another kid. We continue to explore, finding a massive furnace. You should know by now, if you're familiar with my channel, that pretty much nothing is an accident, so you know this will almost certainly be important later. The next boss we face is the Mechanism. He slides across the ceiling and will shoot homing missiles at you, all the while whipping a laser around that you have to dodge as well. Honestly, this fight looks a lot more intimidating than it actually is. After beating him, bingo was his name-o, another key drops. The final boss we go up against is the Executioner. This guy has got a massive axe, or a hammer, I can't really tell. When he slams it on the ground, it leaves a shockwave behind that you have to dodge. The Piss Goblin is back up in the sky, and the hentai tentacles make a return as well. Honestly, this is probably the easiest of the boss fights. It just takes the longest because this guy has a lot of health. After beating him, he drops the final key and we can leave. However, I would highly recommend you don't leave because if you want to get the true ending, we have something else to do. If you take all of the keys we've collected so far and take them back to the furnace, you can melt them together into a single purple key. Then, using this key, you can go all the way back to the start where the purple door was, and now you can unlock it because that's how a door and a key work. Heading inside, we find a box, the same box William mentioned putting her inside of. The box opens and the marionette reveals herself. She thanks us for setting her free and says that it's now her job to set us free. We need to survive until 6 a.m. Now, if we complete night 6 one more time, near the end of the night, the marionette will appear in our office and we get one last cutscene. The marionette takes off our suit and we go to take revenge on William once and for all. Hello! Don't be afraid of me. I will save you. Whoa, whoa, bitch. I took off your suit. You are free. We will take revenge on him. Oh. A secret room. What the heck, bro? Oh shit! Oh. A word? Oh, word. Oh shit, where'd he just go to? All alone in the darkness. Oh, hello. Oh yeah, I'd be fucking shitting myself, bro. We are already here. We are waiting for you. Oh shit. Whoa, what the hell? Oh damn. Oh damn. Dude, yuck. Oh shit, what the fuck? It's time to end this. A tag bucket of FNAF assemble type shit. Oh, his spring locks. Oh my god. Oh shit. Oh shit, his spring locks. They're locking up, bro. Oh. Oh shit. There he goes. Holy fuck. Oh damn. What the fuck? Hell yeah, shut his ass down, bro. Now you will be locked here. Forever. What the fuck? And there we have it. An ending where we survive and all the kids can finally rest. Locked at Freddy's tells its story in a way that feels like a personal confession. A night one man survived and isn't entirely sure how. The whole thing is framed around Elliot Woods, a guy who moved to Hurricane and took the first job he could find because he needed money. And unfortunately for him, that job happened to be at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is already a red flag in this universe. But the important detail here, something a lot of players miss, is that Elliot never actually becomes a night guard. He never makes it to the office. He never even starts his job. He's attacked the moment he walks inside. A man in a rabbit suit, clearly William Afton, kidnaps him, drags him off screen, and forces him into a spring lock suit. Not a costume, not a mascot, a torture device. You're waking up inside a machine built to kill you if you breathe wrong. And that's where the story really begins. Not as an employee, but as a victim William chose for reasons we don't fully know. And for the entire game, William is basically treating the situation like a twisted interview. He's watching Elliot, studying him, testing how long a person can last when trapped inside a spring lock coffin. The animatronics aren't really the point. They're just environmental hazards William unleashes to make the test harder. He talks to you through an intercom all night, and this is where we get the real story. William admits everything. He killed 5 children, he hid the bodies in the suits, he shut down the location, and he never got caught. But the part that actually matters, the part Locked at Freddy's is built around, is the one thing that did scare him: the marionette. He says there was one single thing that could ruin all of his plans, something strong enough to fight back, and he said he'd locked her in a box. That's the core conflict of this game. The night isn't just William tormenting Elliot, it's William making sure the marionette stays powerless. Every time he talks, you can hear how confident he is. He's got Elliot trapped. He's killed before, and he thinks this is all going according to plan. But something changes as the night progresses. When Elliot pushes back, asks why murdering children fixes anything, William actually loses composure. He starts ranting about loss and how he had something important taken from him. There's a reason people compare this game's version of William to Saw's Jigsaw. This isn't William in the middle of the FNAF timeline. This is William trying to prove something, trying to justify his pain by putting someone else through it. And that's why he comes to the restaurant at 5 a.m. He's not coming to kill Elliot because he's winning. He's coming because he wants the ending to be personal. He kills him, stuffs him into the chip suit, and considers the night finished. Another victim contained, another spirit silenced, another threat buried before it can become a problem. But the moment Elliot dies, the entire story flips, because that's when the children finally make contact. The message, "Find Castle," isn't just a clue. It's the kids reaching out. It's the souls William tried to control doing the one thing he never prepared for, fighting back from inside his own game. And the Cursed Night minigame is their language, their world. It's not literal, it's symbolic. It's Elliot navigating a space built out of memories and trauma the kids experienced and helping them break down the barriers William left behind. Every boss you defeat represents another spirit being freed. Every key you collect is a child William tried to silence, locking them away. The furnace is where you merge them, giving them the strength they need to unlock the one door William never wanted opened: the box. And inside that box is one entity who can actually challenge him: the marionette, freed not by the police, not by Henry, not by the spirits, but by Elliot, the victim William assumed wouldn't survive 6 hours. She thanks him, she understands what William did to him, and she chooses to help. That ending scene, the puppet removing the suit and freeing Elliot from the spring locks, is the first time in the entire game that Elliot has any control over what's happening to him. He's no longer one more body in a suit, he's a survivor. And with the spirits awakened, the puppet free, and William still in the building, the true ending leaves us with the moment William has always feared. For once, he's not the hunter. Elliot is. Locked at Freddy's ends right where William's downfall begins, with the victim standing up, the souls awake and united, and the puppet finally out of the box. But as far as I'm aware, that's all Locked at Freddy's has to offer. Overall, I think this game serves as a very interesting retelling of the original story. The gameplay is very fun, and somehow managed to make me not hate my two most hated mechanics in FNAF history. Everything in this game feels responsive yet restrictive in just the right way, and all of the characters work together perfectly in tandem with one another, something a lot of fan games just aren't capable of. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is actually just really underwhelming? Let me know in the comments below. In my Freddy's Reimagined video, I asked you guys what you think the scariest FNAF game is and why, and my favorite answer is this one by Jack Univa. They said Graveyard Shift at Freddy's, and I think we can all agree in saying that game is pretty terrifying in a plethora of ways. The ransomware genre is a subgenre of Five Nights at Freddy's games. While none of these games seem to actually understand what ransomware actually is, the general idea of these ransomware games is to make it appear as though your computer has been compromised by said game. A popular ransomware title you've probably heard of before and that I've actually covered on this channel is Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. And today we'll be diving into my favorite Five Nights at Freddy's ransomware game ever made, FNAF 1 Remake. Created by Marco Antonio, FNAF 1 Remake was designed as an April Fool's joke, so to some, the idea of actually playing it on release was off the table. However, for those who did choose to give it a try, I'm willing to bet they had a very interesting FNAF experience like never before. This game is fascinating, this game is creative, and this game is awesome. So join me today as we dive into the sad and depraved world of FNAF 1 Remake. FNAF 1 Remake centers around us as individuals rather than an actual character, which is something super cool that I've never seen in a FNAF game before. The game opens to a cutscene that just displays text. Explaining the story of the game may be a little confusing, so let me make something very clear. FNAF 1 Remake uses the player themselves as a character, writing your own story in place of a Mike Schmidt style character. In this game, we've re-downloaded Five Nights at Freddy's to try and recapture the nostalgia we originally had as kids when the game first released over 10 years ago. As someone who was around very early into FNAF's lifespan, in fact, I actually joined the community before FNAF 2 was even announced, this is a topic that I could personally find myself relating to. I can still remember my first experience with the game. I was on the couch with my buddy who had the demo version on his tablet. He booted it up, and I got too scared when Bonnie showed up at the door. I mistakenly took him for a dog at the time. I also avoided watching Markiplier's Let's Play of Five Nights at Freddy's because I somehow mistook Bonnie again in the thumbnail as a walrus. Don't ask me, I was a kid, and kids are retarded, okay? The game refers to itself as Buddy throughout the playthrough. Buddy tells us in the opening cutscene that he's going to give us the nostalgic feeling we've been yearning for, and it's going to be so perfect that it surpasses perfection itself. Shortly after, Buddy takes control of the program and quite literally changes the size of the window to show off how in control he really is. For the remainder of the game, we will not be able to put the game into full screen. Something I originally thought was going to be super annoying, but I actually grew to find charming throughout my playthrough. And with that, we can really start to dive into this game. I hope you're excited, because this game is really fucking cool. Throughout the nights, Buddy will talk to us before beginning each one. Buddy asks us if the office looks like the one we remember, just like the old days. He explains that the main idea of the game hasn't changed. It's a remake after all, and before he can say anything else, Night 1 begins. The only threat introduced on Night 1 is Bonnie, and he works in the exact same way that Bonnie does in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Once again, this is a remake after all. Bonnie will make his way to your door and you'll have to close it to keep him out. However, Bonnie can actually attack both of your doors instead of just one. But when I tell you that these character models are a whole lot more uncomfortable looking than the originals, I mean it. Oh my fuck! Oh, fuck that, bro. Fuck that. Dude, what the fuck? Dude, that's so fucked up. The animatronics in this game are all very creepy looking. Not quite scary, but uncanny. Like something is clearly wrong. Take Bonnie. The way his face looks like it's melting, mixed with the odd poses he has throughout the cameras and while in the doorway, it just makes for a feeling of, God damn, I really want to keep him away from me. And I think that's super cool. Of course, keeping Bonnie out is as simple as ever. Literally just close the door. However, something interesting I want to point out about this game is the subtle movements that the window has while playing. As you move from side to side through the office, you can actually visibly see the window subtly move from side to side as well. It's such a small detail, but it's so fucking cool, and it's these little details that always get me to love these types of games. While playing through the nights, you'll also hear a very calming piano playing in the background. I feel this gentle music adds to the nostalgic feel. Not because the original Five Nights at Freddy's had music, it didn't, but the tone of the music itself feels nostalgic, even though I had never heard it before. And mixed with the very unsettling imagery throughout the game, I think the calming music really adds to the overall amazing atmosphere this game has. Night 2 introduces two new threats, Chica and Foxy. Let's start with Chica since it's literally just Bonnie. She does the exact same thing and is dealt with in the exact same way. The only difference is that Chica will make a sound cue when she's at your door and she's fat. Also, let's pause for a moment to look at Chica. Design-wise, Chica has changed more than any other character in the game. Her beak is gone, instead being replaced with a human-looking smile, which is just something I could have gone without seeing, thank you. And her eyes, of course, don't look very animatronic, now do they? Also, her bib just says snack, and it's spelled wrong, so that's great. The other character to mention, of course, is Foxy, as previously mentioned. Foxy is pretty much the same as in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, with a few minor differences. To start, he is stalled by the cameras just like the original. However, you can actually stop him before he charges at your office. You're given the ability to shock him at any point to reset him in Pirate's Cove. However, when you do so, it does drain a lot of power, so it's best to just make sure you're watching him. He does have one other attack, however. Occasionally, you will hear Foxy do his classic singing. A touch I think is super nice. The classic da-da-dums from Foxy are some of the most memorable noises in the entirety of the FNAF franchise. Right up there next to Freddy's death song, the FNAF 2 hallway ambience that makes me want to wipe my balls on a cheese grater, and the animatronic jump scare noises themselves. So adding them back into this game 100% contributed greatly to the nostalgia factor that this game was going for, and I love it. When you hear Foxy start to hum, a hook will appear on the ceiling of your office. You will have to simply click the hook to make it go away, or Foxy will obviously ravage your insides. However, this may go entirely unnoticed since the entirety of the game, as I'm sure you could already tell, is in black and white. So it is likely that you may miss the hook if you don't end up hearing the sound cue, inevitably leading to a game over. On night 3, Buddy tells us that he didn't think we'd make it this far, clearly showing some distress on how quickly we're progressing through his perfect game. He introduces Freddy to us on this night, and the fun can really begin. Of course, I'm not allowed to be happy for a long while playing a FNAF game, so Freddy obviously had to have a find him on the camera mechanic to completely soil my day. However, I actually don't think it's that bad in this game. Ugh, Dxtr, you always do this. Whenever you don't like a game, you nitpick it to death and talk about how you hate every detail. But when it comes to a game you like, you forgive almost everything in the game, even if it had the same mechanics or problems that another game had that you didn't like. You're a hypocrite. I'm not a hypocrite, you're just brain dead. We have to pause for a moment to make something clear, since it's obvious from reading some of your guys' comments that you have no idea how opinions work despite the fact you guys have so many of them. So let's get together and do a little opinion breakdown. To start, I hate when FNAF games put a find them on the camera mechanic into their game. I think it's bad, and I think it disrupts the flow of the game. However, I don't mind this mechanic in FNAF 1 Remake. Does this make me a hypocrite? The answer is no. Let me dumb it down for a bit for the people in the back who don't think too good. Let's imagine someone doesn't like tomatoes. Would you call them a hypocrite because they claim to like ketchup? No, you wouldn't. And this is the same thing. Dxtr, no it isn't, because ketchup isn't just tomatoes. Ketchup has multiple other things in it. Ding, ding, ding! Congratulations, dumbass! You just connected the dots. Would you like a trophy? Well, too bad. You've been on this planet for way too long to finally be able to figure this out right now. In the same way that ketchup isn't just tomatoes, FNAF 1 Remake isn't just a find them on the camera mechanic. It's the mixture of that mechanic and everything else that the game has to offer that makes me tolerate it. And the rest of the game doesn't have every character require a shit ton of attention. So, taking a few seconds to find someone on the cameras actually doesn't disrupt the flow of the game at all, and therefore makes it a balanced integration of the mechanic. If that somehow still doesn't make sense to you, and you still think I'm a hypocrite who glazes every game I enjoy, then you are retarded and there's no saving you. Anyways, continuing, Freddy also has 2 other ways to attack you. The first is just teleporting directly into your fucking office. When he does, all you have to do is just stare into his big, innocent, sensual eyes. I mean, all you have to do is stare at him for a while and he'll teleport back to the stage. Something interesting to note here is that when he's in your office like this is the only time you'll be able to see his eyes. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but it's just something kind of cool I noticed. The final mechanic that Freddy has is to play Simon Says with you. Yes, I'm serious. Hey, this game is still an April Fool's joke after all. It can be as unserious as it wants to be. Occasionally, Freddy will drop a panel down into your office and 4 of the 9 panels will light up in a specific order. You will then have 10 seconds to repeat the pattern you saw. If you fuck up the order or take too long because you sit on TikTok and have the attention span of a toddler, then you will immediately get jump scared. And there you have it, the most mechanically complex character throughout the entire game. And you can quote me on that. Editor, quote me on that. I fucking dare you. Watch what happens. Al, piece of fucking shit-ass editor! I'm sorry, Al. I don't know what came over me there. Anyways, on to night 4. On night 4, Buddy talks to us once again, except this time something is a bit different. Buddy is growing nervous that we're about to beat the game. He expresses how he wishes it could go on forever, how he wishes he could make it go on forever. Night 4 doesn't introduce anything new and is just a harder version of Night 3. Night 5 is much the same. Buddy asks us if we're still having fun. He asks us if we will play again after we win, just like old times. It's becoming clear that Buddy is growing desperate, ironically holding on to the nostalgia more than we are. He doesn't want us to leave, and I get the weird feeling that he's not going to let us. And I was right. At 4 a.m. on night 5, Buddy ends the night abruptly to talk to us, finally showing himself. An uncanny drawing of Freddy. He's grown aggravated with our supposed lack of appreciation of his masterpiece. He thinks that by us beating the game that we're just going to throw him and his creation aside to forget about. He grows more and more morphed as his anger gets the best of him, and he decides once and for all to make one final change to make this game truly perfect for us, getting rid of every mechanic we've seen so far and replacing it all with him, throwing us right into night 6. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. We open to the office and see what it has become, Buddy's new creation. The scenery is morphed like it's underwater, and the monitors have been added to our office. Even the header of the window has changed to "keep going" in all caps. Buddy by far is the most complex character in this entire game. Al, don't you dare play that fucking quote! The most mechanically complex character throughout the entire game. You asshole. Well, whatever. I guess I lied back there, but who cares now? Buddy is the most complex character, so eat my nuts. Let's start with Buddy's main mechanic, sprinting as fast as possible directly into your door. You'll know when he's about to attack because you'll hear the loudest footsteps of all time pile driving directly towards you. You will have to quickly close the door to whichever side he's attacking and listen to him pound on the door as loud as fuck. Buddy also has the chance to attack your doors without booking it, so you will have to use the hall lights to see if he's there, and if he is, just hold the light on him until he disappears. He attacks very often and very quickly, so make sure you're on your A game. Buddy has 2 other ways to completely drill into your butt like he's digging for gold. You'll notice in your office that 2 monitors have appeared. That is not a coincidence, and it is actually a mechanic, if you can believe that. Throughout the night, Buddy has a chance to hack these monitors. When he does, all you have to do is click them to shut them off. If you don't, they will very quickly begin to drain your power faster than my female coworker drains my patience. And finally, Buddy has the chance to infect your cameras with a virus. When he does, you'll have to find the virus on the cameras and close them before they totally beam you. If you don't do that and instead allow them to beam you, the virus will cause your power to go out. And Buddy will crip walk into your office, rubbing his hands together and licking his lips before diving into your crack to have a quick little nibble. Keep in mind, Buddy is very fast and you will be getting attacked consistently throughout the night. There's not a whole lot of breathing room, so this night really pushes the limits to test your nerve control. If you can manage to survive until 6 a.m., we will get the final monologue from Buddy, where he expresses that he failed to accomplish his only goal: create a fun experience for us, the player. He says he'll cease to exist once the game is closed, saying he's only data and checked boxes, breaking the 4th wall and referencing what I can only assume to be Click Team Fusion code, which is primarily made up of checkboxes. He finalizes his monologue by stating he will forever roam around the darkness of our minds and asks us not to pity him. He apologizes one final time and hopes that we had a good time with his creation. And yes, Buddy, yes I did. And with that, that's all FNAF 1 Remake has to offer. There's not much more besides the custom night and a real-time 6-hour night, which I will not be touching in my entire life, thank you very much. But for a game this good and creative, I think most would be surprised to hear that it was developed in only 2 months. And I think that's fucking crazy. That's such a small amount of time for an indie dev, and I think everyone can agree when I say it turned out great. The game isn't too difficult, the designs are amazing, the atmosphere is uncomfortable and nostalgic, and it does a near perfect job of telling the story of desperation. Buddy's goal was to scare you, to appeal to how FNAF seemed when we were kids, and as we progressed through the nights, he grew desperate that we would beat it and we'd never come back. So he forces a 6th night on us in a desperate attempt to get us to stay. But after completing it, he gives up completely. He has nothing left to give us, and he knows that as soon as that window closes, we're never going to play again. And I think this is truly the most amazing part of this game. Fuck the atmosphere, fuck the designs, fuck the gameplay. This story is honestly, if not one of the best I've ever seen come out of any FNAF game. Or really any game for that matter, ever. And that cannot go overlooked. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is just YouTube thumbnail slop? Let me know in the comments below. In my Tubbyland Archives video, I asked you guys what the most frustrating experience you've had in a FNAF game was, and my favorite comment was this one by Drews. They said Post Shift 2 in its entirety, and of course I agree. I think everyone knows how buttfuck difficult that game is, and I'm sure at some point I'll cave and end up covering it. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing in the comments below. I also want to take this time to apologize for the shortness of this video. This game really didn't have much to cover, but I really didn't want to gloss over how much I enjoyed the story, as it truly is one of the best I've ever seen. So I'm sorry if you were expecting another long 20+ minute video. I'll be having some really long fucking videos coming out in the near future, so stay tuned for that. What is your favorite Roblox game? Don't answer that. I don't want to see any comments saying Forsaken, that game is terrible. Let me be more specific. What is your favorite Roblox FNAF game? Maybe you say FNAF 2 Reimagined. Maybe you say dog watching. Well, I personally have found a new FNAF Roblox series that we could add to the conversation. Today, we'll be talking about Five Nights at Marcus, a series many of you may have never heard about. However, with 3 games being in the series, I'm willing to bet you've heard of the third. It's just a little game that goes by the name of Far From Land. Yeah. That's something even I didn't know about until starting to do work for this video. This series tries a lot of interesting things and succeeds and fails at a lot of them. Today, I'll be going over each of those things, so join me as we dive into the world of Five Nights at Marcus. And with Five Nights at Marcus, we obviously start with the first one, and night 1 of game 1. And with night 1 on the way, we bust a nut into our office and can start learning about everything important that we need to learn. To start, let's just talk about our office itself. Obviously, we have our monitors for our cameras in front of us, but we also have a picture of a cat named Oscar on our desk, and I think that's great. Also, if you open the drawer on your desk, you'll see another picture of Oscar. Just lovely. Looking up, we see a big vent, but we'll focus on that later. Turning around, we'll see the door to our office, which cannot be closed, which is a bit concerning just knowing the type of game we're playing right now. And behind us is also a maintenance panel, which we will be using to complete the night. How do we do that, you ask? Great question. On this maintenance panel, you will see several tasks we have to complete. That's right, Five Nights at Marcus uses a task-based completion system rather than a time-based one, which can be a blessing and a curse in some instances. The tasks are mind-numbing. Just press a button and wait for it to load 5 times and the night is over. But what about the threat this night introduces? That would seemingly be Marcus himself. You can find him on the cameras just laying on the fucking floor. He has no legs, so we can all laugh at him for being crippled. Where's your life alert, buddy, huh? Get up! Marcus will try to get to the door behind you. However, Marcus makes no sound cues, and because he has no legs, is not visible at the door or window either. So, how are you supposed to know when he's actually arrived? Another great question. Gosh, you guys are on a roll today. The answer is pretty simple. You really have to make sure you're watching him on the cameras, and once you see him leave camera 1, you'll know he's at your door. But Dexter, how are you supposed to keep him away? Oh my goodness, another amazing question. You're doing so well. Inside of your maintenance panel, along with your tasks menu, you also have a shock menu. Go to the shock menu and use the shock when Marcus is outside of your door and he'll scream like a bitch and run away. And then his cycle will continue. Night 1 is piss easy since Marcus barely moves, but don't worry, this is going to get much more complicated as we go. So let's move on to night 2. Night 2 rolls around and we have one new threat to talk about. And for some reason, I'm not gonna lie to you, this night serves to show me how stressful this game is about to become. Let's talk about it. The new threat on this night, not gonna lie, I don't know the name of him, so I'm just gonna call him Green Man. Green Man attacks in the same way as Marcus, except noticing him is a lot easier. When he gets to your office, he has 2 phases. One outside of your window, and one where he's standing in the fucking doorway. Which I can't lie, scared the shit out of me the first time I saw it. Oh. What's that? I didn't like that. No, I fucking didn't. What the fuck was that about? Which you can see in my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Exact same thing as Marcus here. Whenever you see him in your hallway or at your door, shock his ass and he'll reset. Now, if you remember about 24 seconds ago, you'll notice I said that this night is stressful. You might be wondering how that's even possible considering there's only 2 threats and they both do the exact same thing. Well, my reasoning for this surrounds Marcus and the fact you have to watch him so closely on the cameras. Marcus moves incredibly quickly, it seems. Like, way faster than I would have ever expected for a Night 2 character to move. I was expecting to be able to do my tasks in bursts of 50% before checking on him, but that got me killed very quickly. We gotta get this thing to 100 before we go check on him, though. That's my goal. We gotta get you to 100, bro. Perfect. Fuck me in my ass. Okay, well, I didn't expect you to be that quick. He was a quick guy. Then I decided to do them in bursts of 25%, and that was working up until the point in the night where Green Man starts moving. Then I had to start doing my tasks in bursts of 10%, and even that felt like I was cutting it down to the wire with time management. And now, here's the really weird part. Throughout the first half of the night, Marcus was moving at the speed of sound. The moment Green Man activates, Marcus sits in his final camera for the rest of the night without moving. And this is so stressful for exactly the reason you think it is. With Marcus in his last camera, it only takes him one more movement opportunity to reach the office, which means I'm on edge the whole night, constantly checking to make sure he doesn't move. Because he's been stationary for so long, I'm thinking, there's no way he's not gonna move. He's going to anytime now, except nope. He never fucking moved. Just sitting there like a dick, scaring the shit out of me. Whatever. On to night 3. With night 3 coming along, so does another threat we get to talk about. And in all honesty, this threat doesn't make the game much harder, but Marcus 100% does. The threat introduced on this night is once again someone I don't know the name of, so I'm going to be calling him Vent Guy. And I'm guessing purely by saying his name, you can already guess what this guy is going to do. That's right, the exact same thing as Marcus. No, I'm not kidding. Vent Guy will attack your vents, and he actually has 2 different means of attacking you. The first will have him do exactly what Green Man does. He'll go through vent 1 and show up outside of your office. When he does, all you have to do is go to the shock menu on your maintenance panel and shock the vent. His second form of attack will have him attack the vent directly above your head, or vent 2. When you see him in this vent, for some reason, you don't shock the vent. This time around, you have to give him the Withered Foxy treatment and flash your light at him several times to make him go away. Turns out he's epileptic, and there's nothing I enjoy more than giving epileptic people seizures. Also, quick side tangent, I feel like it'd be hard to drive with epilepsy. And who knows, maybe you can't. There have been times where I'm driving on the highway, and on the sides of the road they have the little bumper things to prevent people from flying off the road, but these little bumper things have several support beams holding them in the ground, so when you're driving during the sunset, oftentimes the sun will line up with those fucking support beams and proceed to strobe me for the next 6 miles on the fucking road. Anyways, let's keep talking about the Five Nights at Freddy's game, shall we? Again, Vent Guy isn't really that big of an issue. Who is a fucking issue, however, is Marcus. At first, I thought Marcus was moving at the speed of fucking sound because there would be several, and I do mean several instances where I notice Marcus leaves camera 1, so I shock the hallway. Then moments later, I get killed by Marcus. At first, I thought this meant Marcus turned into a fucking bullet train, but no. I think I understand what's happening here. I'm pretty sure there's a window of time between Marcus leaving camera 1 and actually showing up outside of your office. And I think I was shocking the hallway during that window of time, which meant when Marcus actually did get to my hallway, I was never actually able to shock him, and I obviously couldn't see him on the cameras. I think this is a very, very bad mechanic. If this is truly how Marcus works, if Marcus can't be seen when he's in the hallway, and he makes no sound cues to indicate he's entered the hallway, and you have a window of time between him disappearing off of all of the cameras and reaching the hallway, and your shock cooldown is very long, this brings up a very obvious problem of literally never being able to time Marcus properly and consistently. What needs to happen is when Marcus leaves camera 1, that means he is instantly in your hallway. What ended up happening constantly during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, is I would see Marcus leave camera 1, so I'd shock the hallway. Then I'd check camera 4 to see if he'd been reset. When I saw he hadn't, I'd rush back to the maintenance panel and spam the shock button, which was always still charging at this point. Shock the hallway a second time, and only then would I see that Marcus would reset. This is very bad. One of the only flaws I've noticed with this game so far. This is not fun. This is not challenging. This is not innovative. This is just bad game design. And if the devs are looking for anything to change about this game, this is 100% the thing to change. But with that, we can move on to night 4. All right, recording Dxtr here. Giving a little note as I'm reading this script and remembering that I wrote this. Marcus, I was told that Marcus, after he is in camera 1 and he disappears, he doesn't go to the hallway. He actually goes to camera 3 after camera 1. However, thinking about that doesn't make sense because quite literally, every time I shocked the hallway and then shocked it a second time, Marcus was reset. So you're telling me that if that's true, what I just said right now, that he goes to camera 3 after camera 1, camera 3 is his final camera. You're telling me that every single feasible time Marcus left camera 1 and I shocked twice, he made a movement opportunity to camera 3 and then my hallway. He made that every time in that window of time without fail. I don't believe that. I have trouble believing that. I think what I wrote originally is correct, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Night 4 rolls around, and with it, another threat is introduced. Once again, the name of this character is currently unknown to me, so I'm going to be calling him Screen Guy. Obviously, as I'm sure you could have already seen, there are 6 screens on our desk, and so far we've only ever used one of them. Well, Screen Guy is here to change that. Throughout the night, at random, he has a chance to appear on any of the non-camera screens. He'll make a subtle sound cue when he appears, and all you have to do is click the monitor he occupies, and he'll go away. Incredibly basic character, not really much to worry about. Something about this night I want to mention is 2 things that I learned. The first being that Green Man's name is Shut. I personally prefer Green Man, if I'm being honest. The second thing I learned while playing Night 4 is that as long as your maintenance panel is down, no matter which of the 2 screens you have selected, you will still do your task. Okay, let's just pump this up to 40. And now we'll shock. Wait, it's still going. Well, isn't that just the best thing you've ever seen in your life? I didn't know it was gonna do all that now. Which means if I notice Marcus has left, now that I know I basically have to shock him twice to properly time it, I can start on my task, flip to the shock panel, and while I take a billion years shocking him twice, the task I selected will still be performed the entire time. I'm sure this was probably obvious to most people, but shut up, I just figured it out now. Anyways, on to Night 5, since there wasn't a whole lot to go over this time. Once again, Night 5 introduces nothing new and just goes about being a harder version of Night 4. While a little boring, there's nothing wrong with that. It is the first game in the series after all. However, there is something interesting to talk about. But before I talk about it, I want to mention the names of the characters I've failed to mention so far. Vent Guy's name is officially Dahomey. Yes, I'm serious. What a silly name. I personally prefer Vent Guy, I'm not gonna lie. And then the weird monitor guy's name is officially Shadow Marcus, which, by the way, I didn't mention this. If you ever don't click his monitor in time, he'll just appear behind you and disable your maintenance panel, ensuring that you will die. Anyways, on to that interesting thing I mentioned about 20 seconds ago. After completing Night 5, the game doesn't just end like I expected it to. Instead, we get this cutscene. But there we go. After completing Night 5, we get a sneak peek at possibly our antagonist, and Five Nights at Marcus comes to a close. But that's not before we're able to go into the extras menu and read a little bit about the characters. We see that Marcus was never finished being built, which is obviously why he has no legs. Shut was originally designed to be so tall for intimidation, as he was going to be a security robot, but he soon turned hostile. Dahomey goes into your vents because he's so small, and he was the last robot made before the company had to hand over all of their robots robots for investigation, which I find interesting because they're not being investigated in this game. They're just sitting in a building. And finally, the company has given no word as to what Shadow Marcus even is, so yeah, that doesn't sound weird and suspicious at all. So yeah, that's all Five Nights at Marcus has to offer. But of course, judging by the length of this video, you guys know we've got a lot more to talk about. And that's because this series actually has 2 additional games packed full of content. So let's move on to Five Nights at Marcus 2. Five Nights at Marcus 2, while not a remaster, don't let that fool you, as while graphically it may not look as good as the first game, mechanic-wise, I think it is pretty solid. And this game is much more stressful than the first. So let's get right into Night 1 because just like in the first game, there's no weird minigames. Night 1 drops us right into the office and really shows us how much more challenging this game is going to be. To start, let's talk about the tools at our disposal. Of course, we have our camera system, nothing special, and just like the last game, we're able to turn around to do our tasks, but we'll talk about what those tasks are in a bit because they are much more interesting than the first. Sticking to the front of our office, we have a flashlight that we can use to flash the large window in front of us. You'll notice there's 3 separate areas of this window you can flash. You'll also notice that this flashlight drains incredibly quickly, like really fast. So what do we do about that? While looking at the front of the office, you can flip down your maintenance panel in order to repair things or shock things. If your flashlight goes dead, simply repair it and it'll fill right back up. Nothing crazy. Now, let's move on to talking about the task-based system this game has, and why it's much more stressful than the first. To start, this time around, we're not just pressing a button and playing the waiting game. This time, it's actually something we have to pay attention to. We will receive several shipping containers throughout the night. When they arrive, we must scan them, which takes a while, and when they're scanned, we'll get some information about them on the left side of the screen. The information predetermined on the right side of the screen is what should be inside of the shipping container. If both sides match, we accept it. If they don't, we deny it. Every time we do this successfully, we gain a point, and if we fuck up 5 times, we lose. Fucking up is pretty hard, but once these nights start to get more and more stressful, it will become apparent how messing this up could be easy. Do this 12 times and the night is complete. But of course, we all know it's not just that simple, as of course we do have other threats to deal with at the same time. Just like in the first game, Marcus himself is the only character introduced on Night 1, and he is very simple. Even more simple than in the first game. However, he does drain a precious resource far more than any other character does. Marcus will move through the cameras to get to your window. Luckily, this time you'll actually be able to see him when he's at it. And when he is, all you have to do is spam your flashlight at him and he'll reset. But of course, with the flashlight draining so quickly, dealing with Marcus is not something you're going to want to be doing very often, as repairing the flashlight can take a hefty amount of time when you really don't have it. Plus, we'll need to use that flashlight to deal with the other threats that get introduced later, but for now, Marcus is all we have, so beating this night should be easy and we can move on to Night 2. Night 2 honestly does way more than I expected it to, and is where I learned that this game has quite a few more characters than the first. So let's not waste any time and talk about the first threat this night introduces, Shut. Returning from the first game like Marcus, Shut plays a role in introducing a very important mechanic into the game, that being your shock system. Inside of your maintenance panel where you repair your flashlight, you'll notice a shock button at the bottom. Switching to the shock screen, you'll see you can shock either the vent or the office. Shut will slowly make his way to your office, and fun fact, whenever a character reaches camera 5, which is the camera right before they show up in your window, they will actually make a sound cue as you'll be able to hear them walking, which is very nice. When Shut shows up at your window, shock your office and he'll go away, wherein you'll then have to wait for the office shock to recharge. Not so bad. Hopefully we just don't get a fuck ton more characters that also require us to shock the office. The next threat introduced on this night goes by the name of Him. Stupid name, I know, but let's just roll with it, alright? Him will make his way to your office and show up at your window. When he does, all you have to do is shock the office and he'll leave. Uh-oh. Something tells me this game is about to get super repetitive and mind-numbing and luck-based. But those are the only new threats this night introduces. But before we move on to Night 3, there's one more mechanic I need to mention now that we've brought up shocking. You only have 5 shocks. When you run out, you'll need to repair your shock to refill it. You usually have plenty of time to do this at this point of the game, but I get the funny feeling it's going to get a lot more difficult as we progress. But with that out of the way, we can move on to Night 3. Night 3 only adds one new threat, and the way the game made him sound made me think he was going to be interesting.
What are the animatronics? Take a shortcut through the vents to your office. Make sure you flash. What?
17! but I was sorely mistaken. This night introduces Vent Boy again. I already forgot his name, and I don't feel like checking again because I remember that it was something really stupid. Vent Boy does pretty much the exact same thing that he does in the first game, yet they somehow managed to make him more boring. Vent Boy obviously travels through your vents. When he makes it to your window, you'll see him directly in front of you. Unlike the original, where you have to shock the vent, this time around, you just treat him like Marcus and flash him a bunch of times until he leaves. Very boring. I don't know why they didn't make him a vent shot character, that just makes sense. It's also at this point of the video where I want to mention a pretty glaring flaw that this game has, and I'm sure you might have already caught on. There is so far no reason to ever check your cameras throughout this game, and in fact, even the sound cues aren't necessary, as you could pretty easily beat what we've talked about so far with the game muted. Here's what the strategy boils down to right now. Start the night and immediately start working on tasks. Every time you send a container, turn around and very quickly flash the 3 sections of the window to waste as little flashlight power as possible. If you don't see anyone, do your next task. If you do see someone, deal with them. If it's a shock character, shock them and then repair your flashlight before turning around and working on the next container. The only time you won't repair your light here is if you need to repair your shock instead. Repeat this 17 times for night 3 and you have it completed. Is this night hard? No. Do all of the characters make you feel intimidated? No. Why? Because even though we have 4 characters active at this point, there are still only 2 mechanics to deal with all of them, as this game continues to dive into the FNAF 2 repetition problem. But let's hold out some hope and move on to night 4. Night 4 is nothing special. No, literally, quite literally nothing new is added on this night at all. And for some reason, during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I actually got attacked far less times than I did on night 3, which I thought was really weird. The only thing that actually changes on this night is how many cargo containers you have, which on this night was 18. Boring stuff. Let's move on to night 5 where something interesting actually does happen. Night 5 does something different, thankfully, that being introducing one new threat that actually really changes something about the gameplay loop, which this game 100% needed. This new character is Vent Boy 2.0, and I'm calling him that because, once again, I forgot his fucking name. Vent Boy 2.0 adds something from the first game that I wasn't a super huge fan of. As I'm sure you could have guessed by his name, he travels through the vents, except unlike Dahomey, he doesn't drop down in front of you for you to flash. He works exactly how Marcus does from the first game. He'll travel through your vent cameras. Once you see him disappear from them, you know he's about to attack. During this time, all you have to do is shock the vent, and he'll reset. While not a hard mechanic by itself, it does hurt my dick that I actually have to try to beat this game now. Although, it is good that at least now finally on night 5, we have a reason to use the camera. Too bad we only get one night with him, as night 5 is the final night Five Nights at Marcus 2 has to offer. However, we still have one last game to talk about, and it's not called Five Nights at Marcus 3. I actually didn't even know that the next game we'll be talking about was even a part of this series, that game in question being Far From Land. So let's jump right into that. Far From Land starts in a very interesting way. Unlike both of the Five Nights at Marcus games, Far From Land actually has something other than just night sections, as this game opens to a cutscene about cargo ships that work for Celadon, and go figure, we play as the person driving this cargo ship. And oddly enough, we're referred to as Marcus by the phone guy. Hey, recording Dxtr once again. No, we fucking aren't. We're not called Marcus. I don't know why I fucking wrote that. We're called Malcolm. Guess I'm retarded. Anyways, let's continue. Speaking of the phone guy, he's nothing special on our first voyage in the game. He tells us how to deal with problems, blah, blah, blah. Let me do that for you guys. To start, once again, like the other games, Far From Land is a task-based completion system, which I really like. And this game's task is by far the most interesting and engaging so far. We have to literally just drive the fucking ship. That's the task. While we're piloting the ship, we will be able to see several icebergs in front of us. We will have to steer the ship away from these to avoid crashes. And once we reach a certain point, which is marked on a monitor in front of us, the voyage will be complete. Of course, it's not just as easy as that. We also have a maintenance room to keep track of. The ship we're on is very old and is prone to breaking down. We can check the ship's integrity with one of our monitors, and once it gets too low, the ship will stop moving and sirens will start to blare. At this time, we must go back to the maintenance room and fix one of a few busted pipes at random. Don't worry about the massive scary vent in front of us. We'll talk about that later. The only other thing for us to talk about on this night is the one threat this game introduces. I'm assuming this character is Shut, just given the fact how large this character really is. On one of our monitors in front of us, we can see a layout of the ship. Unlike every other game so far, we can't actually check the cameras, which is really a good thing since the last two games really didn't have any reason to. Every time a character moves, we will get a signal on this monitor to show us exactly where they are. Obviously, Shut is the only character active on this night, so he's all we have to talk about. Shut, being the most basic of the characters, does the most basic thing. He will wander around the ship until he reaches the hallway directly behind you. You'll be able to hear him when he arrives. Turning around will show him inside of the hallway, but you don't have to do anything at this point. The next time Shut moves, he will be right up next to you, so you need to make sure you're facing the hallway when this happens. As he walks up to you, you'll need to hold your breath so he thinks you're not alive or something. He'll check you out, make sure you're a robot or something, and then he'll turn around and leave, and you can go back to driving the ship. Very simple character, but I do think him getting so close to you is super cool. But that's all the first Voyage has to offer. But good news for us, in this game, there's actually something to do after each night instead of just moving on to the next. We have the first post-Voyage section where we need to fix up our old bum-ass ship. During this section, we're in an area that's dark as fuck. We're equipped with a flashlight and a checklist. We'll have to find several jerry cans around the map, fix several pipes, shut off the power, and find and replace the fuse of the ship's generator. Then this night will truly be over. Of course, it's not just as simple as that, as there is a threat lurking around. Do I know the name of this character? Just like most other characters introduced in this series, no. But I'm sure I'll find out the more that I play. For now, I'm going to call this character the Puppet because its drawing kinda looks like a discount marionette. The puppet will randomly wander around the ship as we're doing our tasks. This place is dark as fuck, and using our flashlight is essential. Every time we move to a new location, we'll have to pause and listen for the puppet's breathing. Even though it's a fucking robot, it still is loud. When we hear it, we must hold our breath until it leaves, wherein we can then continue our tasks. Very simple overall, but I do think it's really cool they're adding something to do after the main night sections. With that, we can move on to Voyage 2. Voyage 2 is much the same as the first. We've got a slightly longer distance to go and a new threat to talk about. This one being a lot scarier than the last. I want you to take a solid guess whether or not I know the name of this character. Do you think I do? What's that? You think I know the name of this character? Well, you haven't been watching this video then because I have no fucking idea what this thing is called, so I'm gonna be calling him Water Guy. Hey, recording Dxtr here, once again, I'm back. Apparently this is fucking Marcus. Does it look like Marcus? No, but it's Marcus. Water Guy uses a mechanic that has to do with water, if you couldn't have guessed based on how I named him. One of the monitors on the panel in front of us shows off our water integrity. This is basically just explaining how much water the ship is currently storing. Pulling the lever next to it will increase how much water is stored if it ever decreases. But that brings up the question of how it decreases. Well, that's where Water Guy comes into play. Just like Shut, he will make his way to where we are. However, he uses a different entrance. If you turn to where Shut attacks and then turn left, you'll see a new door. This door has no light and there's no way to see into the doorway. I'm sure you can see where this might be going. And you'd be right. You will not be able to see Water Guy when he's in the door. And with no cameras, how are you supposed to track him? Well, that's where that trusty motion detector comes into play. When you see that he's near the entrance, quickly whip around to that doorway and pull a yellow lever that releases a sprinkler system into the doorway for some reason. Not really sure why this is here, but it is. When you do, you'll see Water Guy spark, since you know he's a robot and they don't really fuck with water and such, and then he'll reset. Nothing crazy, but he is for sure going to be one of the more annoying threats throughout this playthrough. So now, let's move on to the post-Voyage 2 section. Not even really sure why I'm talking about this section. It's the exact same as the last one, except the objects are placed randomly somewhere else, and it seems that whatever monster is down here is more aggressive. Overall, super simple. It's time to move on to Voyage 3. Voyage 3 is longer than Voyage 2. This is going to be a pattern that repeats itself. Also offered on this voyage is yet another threat for us to worry about, that being Dahomey. A character I surprisingly remembered the name of, but that's only because it's so fucking stupid. Dahomey, like he is in the other games, is a vent character. And where is the only vent on the ship we can access? That's right, the maintenance room. Luckily, we can track him on the motion detector like the other characters, and when we see him in the vent, all we have to do is whip over to it and hold our flashlight on him until he goes away. Very easy, but it is another character to drag us away from the task that continues to get longer and longer each night, but That's all this voyage adds. Moving on to the post-voyage section, which is actually something different this time. Instead of inspecting the top deck, this time we're inspecting the bottom deck. In it, we have another plethora of tasks, such as fixing leaky pipes, replacing fire extinguishers, rearranging pipes, and finally refueling the ship. All of these tasks are pretty simple. However, there is one threat looming over our heads, quite literally the entire time. That being the puppet-looking thing again. Hey, recording Dxtr again, this is a different fucking puppet. I don't know its name, but it's a different one. Occasionally, while we're walking around the lower deck, he'll drop down from a vent in the ceiling. Using a wrench we acquire on this night to complete our tasks, we have to whack the shit out of him to make him jump back into the vents. We only have a certain amount of stamina, and since we need to swing the wrench to fix leaky pipes, we have to balance how much we're swinging at once. Once we get into the final room, all we do is refuel the ship and we're ready to move on to the next voyage. However, before we do that, I want to talk about something stupid that this game has. Quite a few months back, I was actually playing this game on my second channel, Dxtr Black, but I stopped on episode 3 because this post-voyage section of the game was bugged. I said I'd come back to the game after it was fixed. What would happen is that the game would literally just freeze when doing certain things, and I was even able to still replicate it now, which happened in my newest playthrough of the game. What? See, look, I already broke the game. Turns out this bug is all tied to the FPS of the game. If you use the highest FPS to 40 like I do, not only can this bug occur, but it will also fuck up your camera movement 6 ways to Sunday, making you whip around so fast it gives you whiplash. This is the same problem I was having all those months ago. So, if you turn your FPS down to 60, not only will it fix the whole whiplash problem for some reason, it will also completely fix the freezing bug I had. I have no idea whatsoever how FPS has to play into any of this, and this is not the first game I've played with this weird problem. Weirdly enough, the Poppy Playtime games also have bugs on higher frame rates as well, the main one being that the grab pack will pull you upwards far fucking slower on higher FPS. Super weird, but I needed to point it out. On to voyage number 4, which is entirely new territory for me once again, and with this voyage comes one of the scariest threats yet. Lore-wise, not really gameplay-wise, I'm gonna be honest with you. During the phone call, it gets intercepted by a guy named Mason. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to know who Mason is at this time, but I'm gonna be so honest, I have no idea who the fuck Mason is, and I really can't be fucked to figure it out. Mason talks about how this new threat, who he calls the Kraken, has gotten on the ship and that it's very dangerous. Apparently, this robot is what the company doesn't want anyone knowing about, and we're completely alone on this massive ship with it. The Kraken's mechanic is pretty interesting, but I think it could have been done a lot better. The Kraken can be seen on the front of the ship through your window while you're driving. By holding shift, you can cause the horn of the ship to go off whenever you see the Kraken, blow the horn like the hose do, and he'll go away. When your horn integrity runs out, all you have to do is go to the maintenance room and fix a pipe, which will then fix your horn. I don't really know how that makes any sense, but don't question it. That's just what we have to do. The Kraken does have another mechanic, although I personally never saw it. The Kraken has a chance to enter your maintenance room. If you ever see him in there, just turn around and that's literally it. Hey, recording Dxtr again. This isn't the Kraken that does this in the maintenance room. It's another fucking character I don't know the name of, but yeah, no, he was just never mentioned by a phone guy. It's just fucked me, I guess. Overall, I think the Kraken could be a cool mechanic. He kind of hides like he knows you're looking for him, but he always hides in the same spot. I think it would be a lot cooler and a lot more interesting if the Kraken had several hiding spots throughout the front of the ship that he'd hide in at random. Doing this would not only make the gameplay loop more interesting, but also keep the player on their toes throughout the entire voyage. Now, moving on to the post-voyage section. Spoiler alert, it's exactly the same as the last one. Doing the same tasks, albeit one of the puzzles is different, but still very simple, and the puppet thing is still trying to turn our guts into soup. Refill the tank at the end of this section of the voyage, and it is over, and we can move on to the 5th voyage. Voyage 5 adds nothing new to the gameplay loop, just being a harder version of Voyage 4, and a lot harder, that is. The characters really ramp up their AI on this night and get a lot more aggressive, which is an oddly nice change of pace. What really gets interesting is this post-voyage cutscene.
doing this? You think you can just take us away and destroy us and leave no trace of us left? I don't want that. I don't want that to happen. You have made a mistake doing this, and you know that. Malcolm, I know everything about you. You are just like everyone else I've killed. Weak. Maybe I know why you are even here to begin with. Is it because of your brother? I know you're hurt, and I know you want to take revenge. But you know deep down that you'll never defeat me. Never come back here. Never tell anyone about this. Or else, you'll have to face me.
And with that, we're surprisingly thrown into a sixth voyage. A sixth night is something that none of the other games have had so far, so this actually makes me very surprised. And turns out this final voyage is a boss fight with the Kraken, which is the name of the robot we just saw in the cutscene, not actually the robot I was calling the Kraken earlier. I'm sure you could have guessed from this whole video, but I don't think the series is very good at explaining names. The Kraken obviously plays the role of all of the characters we've seen on the voyages so far, with a small twist when he plays as Shut and Dahomey. In both cases, when dealing with him, he activates a rat from Five Nights at Candy's 3 mechanic, where you have to track his head while he moves around. Awesome change of pace. I love that they added this little extra piece of detail, really ties everything together. The dude that sits outside of your front window, and Scrap, which is the name of the character that I thought was the Kraken that sat in your maintenance room, had a chance to do it, and you turn around, it's that guy, his name is Scrap. I found this out only because of the fucking settings at the end of the game, because they never say his fucking name in the game. It's just stupid as fuck. But that's really it. Deal with all of the characters and try to avoid the fact that the Kraken killed a guy and attached his rib cage and head to his own fucked up robot body. Yeah, tell me that's not the most fucked up shit you've ever heard in your life. After completing the voyage, we get one last cutscene where we seemingly willingly drive the ship right into a giant rock to sink the entire thing and destroy ourselves, along with the murder robots that are inside of it. Honestly, a very good decision in my opinion. Really taking one for the team there, Malcolm. I appreciate it, G. But with that, everything is destroyed. We unlock the extras where I learned Dahomey wasn't even Dahomey the entire time I've been calling him the wrong fucking name, and that there are like 7 human characters that have a paragraph of text beneath them, all characters I'm supposed to be familiar with. Spoiler alert, I am not, so I'm just gonna pretend like I never opened the extras menu, and I'll just say that Five Nights at Marcus series comes to a close. Overall, I really think that this is a great series. I think it started off pretty rocky, but overall it's clear you can see a real improvement from one game to another, especially with how amazing Far From Land is. Even though it has one of the stupidest bugs I've ever seen. I just really hate how lore-wise, I literally picked up none of it. Literally 0 pieces throughout my whole playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Well, let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Or do you think this game series is just the worst of the worst slop? Let me know in the comments below. In my Fazbear Tomb video, I asked you guys what smaller FNAF fan games you'd like to see me cover in a video where I go over multiple in one video. And my favorite answer was, I don't fucking know, because I couldn't find a comment that actually answered the question. So thanks, guys. What is the most disturbing thing you've ever seen while playing a FNAF game? That's a serious question. I really want you to think about it. I'm sure a lot of people are already thinking of the third tape from the original Dormitibus, but that's not quite what I mean. I mean, what's the most disturbing thing you've seen? Literally seen with your own 2 eyes, or one if you're half blind. Let me cut to the chase. The game we'll be talking about today is the Fazbear Tomb, made by Maroon Fox, who, fun fact, I've actually known for many years, and he reached out to me to ask me to voice some of the characters in this game. Rest assured, that's not why I'm talking about it. The Fazbear Tomb has some of the most shocking imagery I've ever seen in any FNAF game ever. So let's waste no time and jump right into it. With nowhere better to start than night one is where we will start, and we actually get to walk into the building instead of just being dropped right into our office, which I always think is pretty cool. Starting outside, we enter the building and walk into the dining area where we can see Bonnie and Freddy. Chica is also on stage, you can tell because you can see her feet, but unfortunately the rest of her body is blocked by Freddy's enormous belly, which is just not ideal. Moving to our office, we sit down and I notice something immediately which I think is really cool. That being, instead of turning like in most FNAF games, you can actually turn 360 degrees inside of your office. It's such a small touch, but I really like it. Moving on to the tools at our disposal. There really isn't much to be said here. We have cameras and 3 doors to our office. 2 of the doors can be held shut, but the 3rd door cannot, instead allowing us to play dead outside of it. Why can't we play dead next to all of the doors? That I don't really have the answer to. Oh yeah, we can also shine our light in all of the doorways, so that's nice too. We get a phone call from the phone guy, pretty typical stuff. He gives us the normal spiel of how to deal with the characters, which might make you think they'll all be activated on this night, but you'd be wrong. For some reason, we're told how to deal with every character on night 1, even though only 1 threat is introduced on this night. Not really sure why, but whatever. Oh yeah, and one more super cool thing about this game, the phone guy is played by me, so that was super fun.
To make sure he doesn't get you, you must... Well, that is all the training for today. Good luck on your shift and have a killer time at Freddy's.
There's 3 doors. What do you mean? What do I have to do? Also, why am I'm talking to myself? It feels weird. Moving on to the 1 threat this night introduces, that being Bonnie, who is as basic can get. Bonnie's goal is to attack the 1 door in your office with no actual door on it. He'll wander around the cameras before getting there. You can flash your light to double check that he is indeed there, and once you know he is, just play dead. Phone guy says to do so for 10 seconds. Kind of odd how he just knows how long he's supposed to do that for, but I'm gonna look past it. Something I'm not a super huge fan of in this game is just how long the nights are, especially night 1. You'll notice that each minute in this game is about 1.5 seconds in real life. And with a night like night 1, where only Bonnie is active, and at the same time during my playthrough, which you can see over on my 2nd channel, Dxtr Black, I actually never even had Bonnie come to my door, and I was playing Raid Shadow Legends the whole time. It just leads to this night feeling like a slog. But after making it to 6 AM, we complete the night, and we can talk about the post-night 1 minigame, which may just be one of the most shocking things I've ever seen in my life. During this minigame, we have to take apart Bonnie because there's been complaints of a bad odor coming from him. We start by opening his head, removing his arms, and cracking open his torso. Removing the plate, we see this. That's right. We actually get to see the corpse of one of the missing children stuffed inside of Bonnie. Truly one of the most gruesome things I've ever seen in a FNAF game before. I don't think any other game that I know of has ever actually directly shown you the bodies of the children. So needless to say, seeing this was crazy. After that shocking reveal, we get a very odd cutscene. A large amount of words are said, but I can't really make out most of it. I'll play it here with subtitles of what I could make out, but I'll need your guys' help in the comments to decipher everything.
But even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker, and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well?
Night 2, here we are. Let's just say action from these robots picks up quite a bit on this night. Night 2 only introduces 1 new threat, that being Chica, as I'm sure you could have guessed. And I'm gonna be honest, Chica brings up a really big glaring flaw that this game has. That being that the gameplay is boring as fuck. But let's explain what Chica does first. Chica will move around the cameras until making her way to your 2nd door. Once she approaches, you can flash your light to check she's there, and if she is, hold the door closed until you hear her go away. This is also the first night I actually had Bonnie attack me, and something I noticed about these two is just how long it takes for both of them to leave your door. It's like a solid 10 seconds at least, which yes, I know the phone guy said, but I didn't think he like literally meant it. But can you notice the issue this game already has? Both Bonnie and Chica do the exact same thing. And while sure, you could argue that Bonnie and Chica do the same thing in a lot of games, but when the cast of characters is so small, I think that should make you more inclined to make everyone do something unique. This franchise has been around for over a decade. I would like to see the community do something different, and I feel like this game tries to hide the fact that everything is the same. Sure, you have 3 doors, but 2 of them are just a close them when someone is there mechanic, and the other is a play dead mechanic, which by the way is literally exactly the same as holding the door closed, except there's no animation, the screen just turns black. And this is what I mean. It feels like the game is trying to make you think that Bonnie has a different mechanic from Chica because it calls it something different. But in reality, you're just holding control for both of them, so it feels a bit disingenuous. But on the other hand, the character AI has definitely ramped up on this night. During night 1, I was never attacked by Bonnie the entire time. This time around, I was attacked by him a good handful of times, and Chica tried to rail me a couple of times too. So at least during this night, I couldn't play another game at the exact same time like I could on night 1, which is a good sign of progress. Oh yeah, I should probably mention the phone call on this night too, since it is pretty interesting. It seems like a previous night guard was able to intercept the phone's connection. Don't ask how, just accept it. He talks about how the robots are out to kill. We already knew that. And he explains Foxy and Freddy's mechanics, which is good since the phone guy on night 1 cut out before he could finish talking about Freddy and how he worked. I'm obviously not going to tell you how to deal with Freddy and Foxy right now since they aren't even active at this point, so let's just move on to the post-night 2 minigame. Something I want to quickly preface is that technically these are not post-night minigames, they're technically pre-night minigames, but I'm so used to talking about the minigames after talking about the night. Oh, just know that this minigame I'm about to talk about isn't a post-night 2 minigame, but is really a pre-night 3 minigame. Who really cares though? It's all in the same order. In this game, we play as a very slow, fat child. Not based. The most horrendous, creepy-looking 8-bit spring Bonnie I've ever seen in my life appears to tell us he has a gift for us. A very special one. We follow him through 2 rooms and see a gift box on the ground, but Spring Bonnie is nowhere in sight. Upon approaching the box, Spring Bonnie sprints at Mach 46 in our direction and presumably murks us, ending the minigame. So, not nearly as interesting as last night's minigame, but maybe this showed what happened just before what we saw in that last minigame. Or who knows, maybe this is one of the other dead children altogether. Right now it's hard to say, but let's continue on to night 3. On night 3, I was expecting one new character to be introduced, since it seems we're only going to be getting the 4 characters from the first FNAF game. Introducing one every night makes sense to me. But no, we have 2 threats to talk about on this night. So let's start with the least interesting one, Freddy. Freddy works, quite literally, in the exact same way as Bonnie and Chica, with the exact same attack pattern and the exact same way of dealing with him. He will attack your 3rd door, except he doesn't like to be flashed by your light. So if you ever do, he'll kill you instantly, even if you close the door directly afterwards, which doesn't make sense. So this brings up a question of how you're supposed to know when Freddy is there. Well, this game tells you that you'll be able to hear Freddy breathing when he's outside of your door. However, I was unable to hear the breathing, ever. Or, if I was able to hear the breathing, I was unable to tell it was breathing, since there are so many other fucking random noises that happen constantly throughout this game. You wanna know why I never heard the breathing sound effect? I checked the code of this game myself, and yeah, it's literally never programmed to play the breathing sound. Here is the code for the breathing sound. You see that start sound, pick random 1 to 4? There are 4 breathing sounds, and this plays one of those at random. You'll notice that these 2 blocks aren't attached to anything, and I never moved them. By the way, there is nothing that triggers these 2 blocks. This is all of the code for Freddy reaching your door. You'll notice a few weird things about it. That it starts by running a broadcast for Bonnie arriving. Spoiler alert, I have no idea why it's called Bonnie Arrive. The only thing this broadcast does is run a function in another sprite that plays footstep sounds. The other weird thing you'll notice about this code is that, yes, It actually does start sound, but not sounds 1 to 4. Instead, sounds 5 to 10. Well, what are sounds 5 to 10? You might ask. Well, they're footstep sounds. All of them. Sounds 5 through 10 are all footstep sounds. But why the fuck would you even need to play footstep sounds if right before that block you have the Bonnie Arrive broadcast that plays fucking footstep sounds? And why are there breathing sounds in this game that are never used, pretty much making it impossible to know when Freddy is ever at your door? I have no idea. And yes, by the way, I checked everything in the AI management code, and nowhere besides those 2 blocks that are detached and never called that I showed earlier does the code ever call for sounds 1 through 4 to ever be played. I have no idea what's going on. But worry not, I found a strategy for dealing with Freddy. We know because of the Bonnie Arrive script that whenever any character shows up at the door, we'll hear footsteps. Well, whenever I heard footsteps, I'd check Bonnie's door and Chica's door since I could safely flash my light on them. If I didn't see either of those two, then I'd know it has to be Freddy who's at my door, and fun fact, Freddy doesn't appear to make footstep sound cues when he leaves either, so that's just great. Anyways, let's talk about the other threat this night introduces, Foxy. Foxy is pretty simple, but he is different from the other 3, thankfully. Foxy is in Pirate's Cove. Occasionally, throughout the night, he'll start humming like he tends to do. When he does, all you have to do is go to his camera and flash him with your camera light a few times and he'll close the curtain. So he doesn't even really do what normal Foxy does. Not that that's an issue, just thought I'd point it out. So, here's what the core gameplay loop boils down to right now. Start the night, literally sit there and do nothing until you hear Foxy humming or footstep sounds. Deal with Foxy if you hear him, and if you hear footstep sounds, check Bonnie, then Chica. Deal with either of them if you see them, and if you don't see them, close Freddy's door until you hear the next sound cue. Repeat for 8 fucking minutes since each minute in this game is 1.5 seconds, and you'll beat the night. Meaning we can move on to the post-night 3 minigame, technically pre-night 4 minigame. This is just a cutscene, but a creepy one at that. The marionette box opens and the marionette crawls out with the most disgusting sound I've ever heard. She offers us a gift box and says that if we take it, we'll be gifted new life and that he'll never be able to hurt us again. This tells me that we're the soul of a child in this cutscene, and of course, the marionette is reanimating us. We accept the gift and the marionette crawls back into its sticky sounding box, and we move on to night 4. Night 4 adds nothing new to the gameplay loop. However, it is where I noticed a plethora of bugs in this game so horrific it's hard to describe. And pretty much every single bug stems from Freddy and the fact he will literally just ignore your door. He will also sometimes not play his footstep sound cue when he gets to the door. Oh yeah, and this part isn't a bug, but multiple characters can attack at the same time, guaranteeing that you lose the night because of RNG.
That sounded rather loud. Good thing I went and checked. I said, good thing I went and checked.
Fuck! Okay, well, you can't put Bonnie and Freddy there at the same time, dude. That's literally impossible. Impossible to deal with.
Really, bro? Bonnie, walk off.
What the fuck, dude? This game fucking reeks. Holy shit. It's a broken fucking mess. So yeah, doesn't that just look like a ton of fun? Because it wasn't. Anyways, since there isn't actually anything new to talk about, we can move on to night 5, which actually does introduce something pretty sick. But of course, before we talk about it, we need to talk about the pre-night 5 minigame. It's a pretty shitty, boring minigame. It's literally just the opening to FNAF 2. We're in the POV of Freddy, and we can look back and forth at Bonnie and Chica. Nothing super crazy or groundbreaking happens. We don't even see the marionette like we do in FNAF 2. Alright, who cares? Now we can move on to night 5. Well, let's just say that night 5 is something different, acting as this game's boss fight night. Every character we've seen up until this point has been disabled, and we hear the doors to the entrance of the building open, only to see none other than William Afton inside of the Spring Bonnie suit enter the building. That's right, the boss fight is with Afton. Why is he here? I have no idea. Is it ever explained to us why he wants to come kill us? Just a security guard that he himself likely hired? Not at all. But are we gonna complete it nonetheless? Yes. Honestly, calling this night a boss fight is pretty generous, as Afton does not do anything interesting or different from the rest of the characters. He can attack 2 of your 3 doors, and I'll talk about why in a bit. He can attack the 2 doors that, well, actually have doors. Obviously, when he's there, just close the door and he'll leave. However, Afton is faster than every other character we've seen so far, so tracking him on the cameras to tell which door it is he actually went to is really important, since you won't have time to check both doors without him killing you. Once again, like Freddy, even if the fucking door is closed. Hello? Ah, bitch! The door's closed, dude. The bugs in this game, they're unbearable. They're unbearable. Unbearable, dude. The door was closed. Now, you may be wondering, why doesn't Afton attack the door that Bonnie attacks? The one with no door? Well, that would be because it'd be impossible to defend yourself. You might think that that would make it the perfect door for him to attack, but from a gameplay standpoint, you really can't have him attack that door, now can you? Because he's not going to believe that you're already dead, since he's a human and not a stupid fucking robot. So this once again brings up my point, why even make the first door's mechanic playing dead? Why not just make it another door? It would literally function the exact same way, plus it would give Afton another means of attack and make his boss fight actually make a little bit more sense and slightly more difficult. But let's even look past all of that. What happens once you beat the night? Well, get this. Afton enters the fucking office anyways. So like, what is the point of whatever we just did? Clearly he has the power to be able to get into your office regardless. This kind of feels more like what we did throughout the night didn't really matter, which, by the way, the nights in this game are way too fucking long for how boring the mechanics are. A game like Next Week at Freddy's can have really long nights because there's a lot of variables that can change throughout the night to make it interesting for a long time. But when every single character in the game is dealt with in the exact same way, 8-minute nights are just completely unnecessary and make the game feel like a drag. But like I said, after you complete the night, Afton gets into the office and we get the following cutscene.
I found you at last. Did you really think you could hide? Did you really believe that you could cower away from me? I own you. I own this place. This is my kingdom, and I shall take you to my hell.
So there you have it. The marionette appears from the fucking ceiling. I guess she was just hiding up there the whole night, and she sets off the spring locks in Afton's suit. Which, by the way, once again, I have no idea why he's even wearing the spring lock suit. The robots are not even activated on this night, so it's not like he's trying to disguise himself from them. If anything, wearing the suit you killed them in would probably just piss them off. I'm not really sure. William dies in front of our eyes, and the Fazbear tomb comes to a close. Overall, I think it's pretty clear that there's a lot I see wrong with this game. However, I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's clear a lot more care went into the storytelling and the designs, which I can appreciate. I know Maroon Fox is already working on the second game, but if you're watching this, Maroon, which I'm pretty positive you are, you need to fix the problems I mentioned in this video before you release the second one, because this game was incredibly frustrating and it did not need to be. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this is actually the coolest FNAF fan game of all time? Let me know in the comments below. In my Fred and Pals video, I asked you guys if you had to survive any official FNAF game, which would you choose and why? And my favorite answer is this one by Professionally Bizarre. They said FNAF 2, and I agree, because realistically, you could just wear the mask the entire night and do everything else at the same time. It's pretty normal for me to get suggestions for games to play, and especially so when a new FNAF fan game gets released. However, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Never throughout my entire YouTube career has a game been requested as frequently as the one we'll be covering today, and for a good reason. The game we'll be covering today is Forgotten at Fredbears, the latest and greatest FNAF fan game in this ever-growing genre. Strap in everybody, this game has a lot of fun stuff to talk about and you will soon see why it's so hyped up. However, I feel it does have one big downside, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Before we can start talking about what this game has to offer in terms of an actual gameplay loop, we first have to talk about what happens before the game even begins, that being the opening cutscene.
I've done security work before, Mr. Afton. But this, the hours, the pay, it doesn't add up. Why me? You are reliable, John. That's all I need. A reliable man who does his job. The previous night guards will tell you everything you need to know. Do not concern yourself with the rest.
You always knew how to cover your tracks, didn't you, William? But I know what you've done. I've always known. It's not revenge. It's justice. Justice for her. I won't let her be forgotten.
Alright, so already we've got a lot to unpack. To start, I'm assuming that we'll be playing as the guy William was talking to, John. William is hiring a new guard, but as you can already tell by the sinister look on his face, he clearly has some ulterior motives. Henry is pretty pissed, and should be. William did kill his daughter after all, but I wonder if there's any proof of that murder actually happening. Afterwards, we're booted into an 8-bit minigame with a beautiful art style. Holy shit, this pixel art and animation is phenomenal. In it, we play as Evan, William's son, the crying child. However, instead of Evan getting bullied by the teenagers, Evan witnesses Charlotte being bullied by them instead. They push her outside into the freezing rain and Evan follows after her, only to watch William, his father, approach her and kill her in the alley. Evan runs back inside to Henry, Charlotte's father, and tells him what he saw. During their conversation, we can see the security puppet bolt past them in the direction of the exit door Charlotte got pushed out of, and this minigame comes to a close. So wow, this early in the game and we already saw the death of the first child. Should be kind of crazy out here, I suppose. Anyways, moving on to talking about night one and what this game really has to offer. The first thing I want to point out is how beautiful this game looks, especially when it comes to lighting. The designers of this game absolutely nailed the atmosphere of this game, and trust me, it only gets better the further down the rabbit hole we fall. The controls of this game are really a masterpiece, I can't lie. In my FNAF Rewritten 87 video, I mentioned how much I hated the way the mouse controlled, and how it was probably my biggest issue with the game. I cannot make the same complaint about Forgotten at Fredbears. This just might be the most satisfying and responsive mouse controls I've ever felt while playing a FNAF game before. You wouldn't think you'd really notice a difference between FNAF games, but when you play as many as I do, it will be something you pick up on really quickly, and I really appreciate the devs of this game for nailing this so perfectly. Anyways, what about the tools at our disposal? Well, this game keeps it pretty simple. In our office, we have 2 entrances, I think. I know the door to our left is an entrance, but I'm also pretty sure that this big blurry thing in front of us is also a door, and this is corroborated by the way the camera map is set up as well. You can walk up to the door on your left, but just doing so will make it seem like it doesn't do anything at all. It will become very apparent what this door does once we start talking about one of the threats this night introduces. Of course, this game also has a camera system, as I already mentioned, and it comes equipped with several speakers to play music over. I'm sure you can guess where this is going. Before we start talking about threats, I think we should talk about this night's phone call and why I feel it's so weird. There are actually 2 phone guys, and each of their names are Joe, referring to themselves as Joe A and Joe M. They mention what we'll be doing throughout the night, but who cares about that? They also mention the disappearance of Charlotte and how it affected Henry. Apparently, now he's just hiding out in the basement. The Joes said they snuck into the basement to see him, but were caught and thrown onto the day shift, which is why we're on the night shift now. Very, very interesting and intriguing stuff. And if we don't figure out what's down there, I think I might tear my foreskin off. I think I should also make it clear that Henry is under the impression that William is on the night shift, so it appears William hiring us is a type of cover-up for something. Maybe that's why he looked so sinister. So, time to talk about the 2 threats this night introduces. To begin, we'll talk about Spring Bonnie. Another quick thing I want to mention is the character designs these animatronics have. They all look super sleek, but Jesus Christ, are they uncanny and terrifying looking. If I were a kid coming to these restaurants, I don't think I'd ever want to come back. These things are scary as fuck. Anyways, what does Spring Bonnie do? Well, he makes use of that left door I mentioned earlier. He will make his way around the cameras and to said door. He will then literally push it open. And I think you'll enjoy watching what you have to do for yourself next. Oh my God. What the fuck? Yo, that's fucked up. That's so fucked up that you just did that to me. Tell me that's not the coolest fucking thing you've ever seen. They're straight up tossing in some after hours at Cody's level timing shit, and I'm all for it. It really adds to the stress and tension that the actual employee would be feeling during this moment. I think it adds so much to the atmosphere and really makes it feel like you're part of the experience. The next threat this night introduces is the security puppet, easily one of the most uncomfortable looking characters to come out of this game. The way she works is very simple, but that doesn't make her mechanic stop me from blowing my foreskin up like a balloon and making some balloon animals out of it. The puppet will come out of the prize corner and attempt to get to your office. However, instead of having a bullshit music box, she instead is just attracted to the sound of music. Most of the cameras on the map have a music button I mentioned earlier. If you hold down one of these buttons, music will begin to play. However, only so much music can be played on each camera. You'll be able to see the music draining on the button, so you'll have to use it sparingly. If you play the music on a camera adjacent to the camera the puppet is on, the puppet will be dragged into that camera. Continue doing this to pull the puppet away from your office, and make sure you're keeping track of how much boof juice is in your music boxes, and you'll be a-okay. Something you'll notice is that this night ends at 3 a.m. I thought that was really weird, but guess what? We're not even close to being done talking about the first night, as we're thrown into a repair minigame after completing the main part of that night. In this vent area, there are 4 vents, 1 on each side of you. Ignore how we even got to this position. I'm assuming we just climbed through one of the vents possibly. The goal of this minigame is to repair each of the 4 vents by doing a different minigame for each. But before we talk about these minigames, let's talk about the 2 threats we'll have to deal with at the same time. The first and most annoying threat is Balloon Boy, because of fucking course it is. He can come through 3 of the 4 vents. You'll notice one of the vents has a door you can close on it. This vent will be reserved for the other character this night introduces, so Balloon Boy can travel through the other 3. Balloon Bitch will be laughing constantly to inform you as to which vent he is going to try and come through. Once he gets close, simply flash your light at him and he'll dive back into the hellhole he came from. The other threat in this minigame is Mangle. Mangle works in much the same way as Balloon Boy, except she can only attack the vent that has the door. She makes sound cues as well, and when the sound cue she makes is very loud, that's how you know she's about to attack. Quickly turn to her vent and hold the vent closed. Once she stops banging on it, you're free to let go and continue fixing the vents. Speaking of fixing vents, how exactly do you do that? Very simple. Just kidding, each vent has a different minigame. The first vent will have you match several symbols multiple times over. This minigame is obviously super simple, but do keep in mind you will be being attacked by 2 dickheads at the same time. Once you complete this minigame enough, you can move on to the next. The next minigame has you playing Simon Says. Easily the most frustrating of the 4 minigames for one main reason. You cannot drop the maintenance panel until the system has stopped showing you the Simon Says panels. So, if you hear Mangle about to rape your shit, you'll have to wait until the panel very slowly shows you all 5 squares you have to memorize before you can deal with her. You then have to hope to God you remember the pattern as you turn back, because if you fuck up, your repair percentage will drop and you'll be stuck doing this minigame for even longer. The next minigame is Simple Sugar. Every few seconds, a letter will appear. All you have to do is press that letter on your keyboard. Do this enough times, and we can talk about the final minigame. The final minigame blows a bit of dick. You will have 2 bars with 2 small rectangles at random points on them. Clicking and holding a bar will make it start to fill up. If you let go, the bar will slowly decrease. You have to get both bars to be inside of their small rectangles at the same time, and do this several times for the minigame to end. This isn't by any means a difficult minigame, it just makes my dick hurt and my blood pressure rise. But if you can complete all 4 minigames, Night 1 will officially be completed. That's right, that was all only Night 1. Hooray! Hooray!
I let you take the night shift. I thought the other guards were too curious. I told you I trusted you to handle things. So go ahead, play a little card. But I know what you did, and I'll be the one who will deal with you. Our creations will be your undoing. I know the truth, that I won't let you live after what you did to my girl. I know what you are capable of. I'm sorry, old friend.
Well, would you look at that? Henry appears to be tampering with the animatronics to make them more hostile to attack William, since obviously Henry is aware that he killed his daughter. However, what Henry doesn't know is that William isn't actually working the night shift like he said he was. William is 3 steps ahead. He knew Henry would do something like this, so he lied to Henry that he'd be taking the night shift and hired us in his place. This is actually some really cool light Yagami type storytelling. I actually really like it. Now, moving on to Night 2, we have the night segment to talk about, and the new threat that this night introduces. The little whiny, annoying bitch himself, Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy's mechanics are honestly pretty simple. You just need to have some decent reaction time. Balloon Boy will move around the cameras at complete random, so tracking him just doesn't even matter at all. At random times, he will enter one of your 2 vents. A very loud, obvious sound cue will play when he does so. A few seconds after you hear the sound cue, he will drop down from any of the 2 vents on your office ceiling. All you have to do is click whichever vent he's in, but you do have to be very fast since you will not have a lot of time to click on him. Once you click him, he'll crawl back into the vent like the disgusting little fucking nematode he is, and then his cycle will repeat. In all honesty, I like Balloon Boy's mechanic. Reaction-based mechanics are always something I'll favor since it's just something I feel I'm better at. However, I do have a complaint with the response of this mechanic. Let's use Spring Bonnie as an example. When you properly hit a timing during Spring Bonnie's attack, there is a visual indicator that you did so. Obviously, that being Spring Bonnie recoiling from you slamming on the door. This gives the user positive reinforcement that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing properly. Visual indicators are always very important things to have in your games for responses to the player's actions to let them know that the actions they are performing are intended. Balloon Boy has 0 visual indication that you are dealing with him. Not only does this make dealing with him feel super unsatisfying every time you do it, but it can also be very confusing when you're first learning the mechanic. Let me give you the most basic example of a visual response indicator for those of you that don't want to do anything fancy. When you hover over the door to your office, your mouse changes to this sprite to indicate that yes, this is something that can be interacted with. Even this is enough of an indicator to let the player know what they should and shouldn't be trying to interact with. When Balloon Boy drops down from your vent, when you hover over the vent, not even this mouse change is present. Even though you are supposed to click on the vent, they give no visual indicator that you're supposed to do so. And when you do click on the vent, nothing seems to happen, as Balloon Boy will finish out his animation before closing the vent behind him and leaving. So when you click it, it literally feels like nothing happened at all. Is this a nitpick? Of course it is. However, I feel it's these little details that matter the most. When small things like UI and visual indicators are done properly, you won't even realize they're done properly at all, but you will realize when they're done poorly. Anyways, enough talking about that. Now it's time to talk about this night's post-night section, wherein instead of repairing the vents, this time around we're repairing Fredbear. This section is miles easier than the last. All we have to do is take Fredbear's head off, which you have to do very slowly or he will give you a rim job, which I'm personally just not a fan of. Afterwards, you'll have to remove his eyes. However, you can only remove them while they're moving or else he'll see you and
Playing your butt like a sandbox.
After that, get replacement eyes and put them and his head back on. Next, open his chest and do an Among Us wire and electrical task on his back. They even put symbols for all my other brothers who are colorblind, which I really appreciate. Put his chest back on and there's only one thing left to do. Run some diagnostics like we're Dr. House. Spoiler alert, it's not lupus. These are kind of like the salvage mini games from Pizzeria Simulator. You'll have to play some sounds that correlate to each of Fredbear's body parts. If at any point he starts twitching like a drug addict, stop holding the button, or he'll hold your butt and squeeze way too hard for your liking. After you finish that, night 2 is complete and we move on to night 3, but not before seeing something a little interesting on our screen.
Oh shit, we got a crying bitch, dude. Get your ass up. Yeah, that's right. Get your ass up. He's home again. Did you hear the door, Evan? You saw her, didn't you? Charlie, bleeding. I didn't mean to see. I just wanted to check up on her. But you did see. You saw what he really is. He wears a smile in the daylight, but you know. You didn't forget. I don't want to remember. Too late. You know what happened to your sister, Evan? She's at Mom's. She's just visiting. No, she's not. Do you really think you're safe here with him? Lie still tonight. Don't speak. For next time, he'll open the door. No. Please don't be him. Oh. Evan, there you are, bud. Wanted to check on you. Your birthday's coming up. Got something really special planned. Yeah, sure. Thanks. You've been quiet lately. Everything okay? Just tired. Alright. Get some rest then. He's lying. You saw it. Charlotte. The alley. His hands. Henry's gone. We don't know why. You can't let him get away with this, Evan. Stop. Stop talking. You remember. And he can't know that. Ooh, shit. Night 3 only introduces one new threat, and I honestly don't feel like they're that much of an issue. But before we talk about that new threat, we need to talk about the insane phone call we got to hear. Joe A mentions that Henry was working on something that would make the animatronics be able to be controlled remotely, and they heard about it right after we noticed that Fredbear was tampered with, which was seen at the end of the post-Night 2 repair section. When Joe A mentions this, Joe M gets incredibly angry, and we hear the following crash out of epic proportions.
Joe! What the hell are you going on about? That's enough! Focus on the job, not on things that don't concern us.
Right. Sorry about that. I don't know. With Henry still missing it all, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what was he really up to? And then there's the need for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opening up later this year.
Joe, I said that's enough! We're not here to talk about that. Stick to the script. We're here to help him survive, not gossip like old ladies. Or do you want him to end up like the others?
No, of course not. I just...
So, clearly they both are aware of something we're not. And from this point forward, Joe M is going to be a character I'm not a super big fan of in the slightest. But we can talk more about Joe M later. For now, let's talk about the new threat this night introduces. That new threat being Foxy, which turns out it was not Mangle in the vent, it was just Foxy, but he was all mangled. So it was basically fucking Mangle. Foxy is a character I was originally concerned was going to be a big pain in the dick, but again, I actually don't think that it's that big of a deal at all. Foxy is obviously in Pirate's Cove on stage. Every so often, you will be able to see him leaning forward, signifying he's about to sprint to your office like Tyson Gay and dig inside you like Scottie Pippins. When you see him leaning forward like this, all you have to do is close the curtains remotely for a bit until he calms down, then reopen them.
You may be wondering, Dexter, why don't we just keep the curtains closed the entire night? That's a very good question, and is actually the question I had when playing this night. But turns out, Foxy does not like it at all when the curtain is closed. And if it happens to be closed for too long, he'll grab the curtains with his butt cheeks and rip the bitches open to force his way to your office. And I think we can all agree that that is a fate we don't want to have happen. What I personally found was the best strategy as of now was to force pull the puppet to Foxy's camera and just camp the cameras constantly. Since there's no power, I don't have to worry about it. And Spring Bonnie and Balloon Boy make sound cues when they attack, so that made it really easy to know when I needed to drop the cameras. Eventually, the music box in Pirate's Cove would run out, and when it did, I'd just drag the puppet to the prize corner and keep him there for the remainder of the night. If you recall, each night only goes until 3 AM, so this actually makes it very, very easy to conserve your music boxes. I just really hope that the puppet doesn't get ass-clenchingly fast by the end of this game. Of course, after we reach 3 AM, we can move on to the post-night section, which has us restocking a supply closet, with Joe M on the phone with us, talking it through. It's during this section where we begin to hear how much of an asshole Joe M really is, as throughout this section, as he's explaining what to do, the tone in his voice is very clearly aggressive.
The closet light and don't move.
Gotcha.
Not even a single twitch. Got it?
I got it. Damn, bitch.
Let's stock the shelves fast and clean.
It's the goal, asshole. Anyways, on to what we actually have to do during this section. Throughout it, we will get deliveries of boxes outside of the closet door, consisting of things like duct tape, paper towel, tissues, and some other shit as well. Joe M will tell us the very oddly specific places on the shelf where we need to place each item. Which, by the way, I don't know why where we place things is so goddamn important, but clearly to Joe M it is. Of course, that's not all we have to do, as Fredbear and Spring Bonnie will be trying to enter our insides, like those fucked up little crack addicts who decide diving face first into a cave called Tight Squeeze Death Trap that has a survival rate of 0%, knowing damn well they have a wife and 3 kids back at home. Each character behaves slightly differently and will require a different form of defense. If you ever see Spring Bonnie at your door, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on his face until he runs away. Fredbear is a little different. If you see him at your door, you have to shut the light off to the closet and hold completely still until you hear his big fat feet waddling away. Then you can turn the light back on and continue. After you stock every item and fill the shelves up, Joe M abruptly hangs up on us. No goodbye.
Closet stocked. You're done.
Good. Why is he such a dude? Why is he such a dickhead? I have no idea what got into him. He's acting like we're the ones who brought up Henry's new experiment on the phone. It's not my problem, asshole. Anyways, on to night 4.
I don't care. Take care of Joe A. He's gonna get us all in trouble. Hey, champ. You like the yellow ones or the red ones better? You know, I didn't get a party like this when I was your age. Back then, we didn't have animatronics singing our name.
I don't want them to sing to me.
Come on, you'll love it. All your friends will be here. It's going to be perfect.
Do I have to go?
It's only a few more days.
Evan clearly is not a fan of the restaurant. I wonder why. Considering what he saw, there's not so much to talk about in the night section of night 4. However, there are 2 things I still want to mention. The first being the absence of Joe A. Obviously, in that cutscene, William says to get rid of him, and Joe M on the phone call says we won't be seeing him again. He also continues being an asshole throughout the call as well, and ends the call abruptly. No goodbye, dick. Anyways, the second thing I want to talk about is obviously the threat this night introduces. The man, the myth, the fat bastard himself, Fredbear. In all honesty, I think Fredbear is a pretty disappointing character in this game, as he is quite literally pretty much just Balloon Boy. Fredbear will wander through your cameras and eventually make his way to the 2 big doors in front of you in your office. When he walks through these doors, all you have to do is stare at him and not move. After a few seconds and some hallucinations saying he hurt us, Fredbear will exit the office. Literally just Balloon Boy with less steps, because you don't even have to click on him. But in all honesty, I think this game shines way more in the post-night minigames rather than the actual night segments, which I actually think is pretty cool. So speaking of, what happens during Night 4's post-night minigame? Well, we actually get to hear from Joe A again. He begins his message by saying if we're hearing him now, then that means something terrible happened to him. So basically, somebody murked my homeboy, and I'm gonna figure out who it is. Mark my words, when I do, I'm gonna grab their balls and squeeze them so hard they burst into little pieces, bursting his 2 balls into 38 tiny balls. Don't play with me. In this minigame, we get to speak directly to the puppet. Joe A tells us that we should never repeat to anyone what the puppet is about to say to us. There are some pre-selected questions that we'll have to ask her, and through her answers, we learn that she's Charlotte, the girl William killed in the alley, and the girl that Evan found, Henry's daughter. She mentions William, Henry, and the basement that she says nobody was supposed to enter. However, Henry has been in the basement a lot recently, obviously working on whatever he's doing to kill William. The puppet tells us that she has the key and ends the minigame by giving it to us, telling me that the final minigame we'll play will take place in that basement. However, this minigame isn't just talking to the puppet, as there are 2 major threats we have to deal with while doing so. Obviously, one of them is the puppet herself. While she's having the conversation with us, Joe A told us that she's very unstable. So if she ever starts to quiver in her boots, we'll have to use the music box to calm her down. The second threat during this minigame is Foxy. He will eventually wander into the prize corner with us, attempting to lick up the nape of our neck. He has several positions he can be seen in. If at any point he starts twitching like a drug addict, you'll have to pull the spring lock override switch to reset him. However, resetting him will also cause the puppet to go crazy mode, and you'll have to immediately use the music box to calm her down again. After we get the key from Charlotte, we can move on to Night 5. Speaking of night, there is a metric fuck ton to talk about, so let's waste no time. To start, the night section is just a harder version of Night 4, so we can completely skip over that as it's not interesting at all. However, the post-night minigame is something crazy.
These machines were meant to be the future, William. The start of something new. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. A place where children can laugh again. A place where you and I could have built something good.
And just like that, we've entered the basement where the original 4 animatronics are present and ready to eat our bussy. This minigame feels very reminiscent of Night 1's post-night vent minigame, where we have 4 different tasks to complete while being attacked. Each task we have to complete relates to one of the characters. Each has a different task we have to perform, while that task's respective character tries to insert itself inside of us. To start, let's begin with the main office area. There is a notepad on our desk that explains in detail how to deal with each character, but I'll be doing that for you, so we're going to ignore that part. What is important is this code on the bottom line, which gives us a termination code for each animatronic. After completing their task, we'll have to type this code into the computer to disengage them. While in the office, each animatronic has the chance to appear. When they do, just hide under the desk until they go away. Alright, so let's talk about Bonnie's minigame first. In it, there are several wires like it's Among Us. While looking at the panel, every century it feels like a symbol will appear on a small screen. You then have to cut the wire that shares that symbol. Cut the wrong one and Bonnie has a field day with you. Also, Bonnie is fat as shit. Occasionally, Bonnie will appear in the room with you. When he does, all you have to do is stare at him and hold your flashlight in his eyes, blinding him like when I was a kid and would stare at the sun for too long, or when I'd put the flashlight right up to my eyeball and turn it on. After you cut all the wires and disable him on the computer, we can move on to Chica.
But I know what you did. To her. To Charlie. You stood there and you watched the light go out of her eyes, didn't you? My little girl. And you took her from me. I thought if I gave these machines a greater purpose, if I made them strong enough, smart enough, maybe they could end you. Maybe they could give her peace.
Chica's tasks requires you to wait for 300 years for a fuck ton of switches to light up in a specific order, flicking them on after they light up. Meanwhile, Chica will slowly be approaching you through the hallway. When she gets close, all you have to do is close the door until she leaves. Once you've flipped every switch and disabled her on the computer, it's time to move on to Foxy.
Fredbear wasn't enough. Neither were the others upstairs. You slipped through again, like you always do. So I turned to the prototypes. Stronger, smarter, obedient only to me. Never to you.
Foxy's minigame is by far the best in terms of it not taking 6,000 light years to complete. All you have to do is spin this crank in a circle more than I throw my ass in a circle when I play a FNAF game with no power and no music box. While you do this, Foxy will slowly appear out from behind the curtains. All you have to do is occasionally pull them closed and he won't be able to get you. Terminate him on the PC and we can move on to Freddy.
I rewrote their code, set their purpose. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica. The ones buried down here. They were meant for you, William. To tear you apart, piece by piece, until nothing is left.
Freddy makes me want to die, easily being the most annoying character in this entire minigame. All you have to do is hold down a lever while a meter very painstakingly slowly fills up. Occasionally, Freddy will enter the room, and all you have to do is stare at him and not move until he goes away. The only problem with this section of this minigame is that it literally takes like 5 fucking minutes. It's ridiculous. Of course, terminate him on the computer, and the night is over, giving us this final, insane cutscene. It's a pretty long one, but you're not going to want to miss it.
I can't forgive you. Not for Charlie. Not for Elizabeth. Not for any of them. I don't know how, but you seem to destroy everything you touch. I want you to remember this. Remember what you stole. Because everything I've built since that night has been for her. You will die here, William. And you will suffer.
Thank you for getting rid of them for me. But I can't let you walk out of here with all that, John. Nothing personal.
It's Evan's birthday, and all of the kids and William are standing around us. Henry enters and mentions he needs to talk to William. William, being in the spring Bonnie costume at the time, agrees and they head into the back room. Evan goes to follow them, but Michael drags him to Fredbear to do exactly what you'd think. I'll let the rest of the cutscene speak for itself, because it is truly one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Well, look who finally decided to come home. You're here about Charlie. Of course you are. Why'd you do it? You really don't know. It wasn't just about her. It was about you. What? You had everything. The money, the awards, your name on every goddamn news article. Henry Emily, the genius behind Fredbears. You were the face of the future. I was just the man behind the curtain, building your dreams. You had a wife who loved you, kids who adored you, and Charlie. God, she looked at you as if you hung the stars. Meanwhile, my wife left. Michael hated me. Evan feared me. And Elizabeth got too close to one of my creations, and I just let it happen. Because that's what I do, Henry. Everything I build turns to rot. But you kept building a dream.
so I tore it down. I took something you'd never get back. Not because I had to, but because I could. I wanted you to wake up like I do, empty.
Come on, give him a big old birthday kiss.
Oh, he's gonna fly again.
She was just a child. Evan.
Holy shit. William went to save his child from Fredbear, but Henry remotely causes the spring lock failure while William was out in the open in front of everyone, in front of his 2 children. The spring lock failure happens in public where there are plenty of people to see, and as far as I can tell, it's not even confirmed if the bite happens. This was easily the most shocking cutscene I've ever seen from any FNAF game, and you can see my reaction to it over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Finally, we see the locked FNAF 4 box. We get the bad ending. There's something we're missing. And don't worry, we're going to get it. Throughout this game, several crumpled notes can be found in various locations. Collecting all 6 of them will allow us to see what's inside of the box. So let's go over each location where you can find them. The first page is on night 1. It'll be directly on your desk. It reads,
Evan keeps crying every night. He says he's seeing things moving at Fredbear's when nobody's there. Ever since Charlie went missing, he's been acting weird.
The second page is found inside of one of the vents during the post-night 1 minigame. However, it doesn't appear immediately. You will have to wait for a little bit before it'll actually show up, which is a bit weird. Regardless, it reads,
It's kind of funny how that balloon boy animatronic looks like me when I was little. I think Dad's trying to mess with me. He said it's a reminder of his favorite troublemaker.
The third note can be found on the floor of the back room during the Repair Fredbear minigame. It reads,
Henry hasn't shown up in a while. When I asked Dad, he started acting mysterious again. Reminds me of when Mom took Liz and left. Dad won't even talk about it.
The fourth page is found during the stockpiling shelves minigame. After stocking the pizza boxes and the paper towel rolls, in the hallway you'll be able to find it on the floor. It reads,
The new Freddy's place is supposed to have a Pirate Foxy animatronic. I told Dad that one's gonna be my favorite.
The fifth page is found during the Speaking to the Puppet minigame. If you turn around where Foxy stands, you'll be able to see it on the shelf. It reads,
My favorite employee, Joe A, got fired today. Kinda sucks. He was pretty cool. Used to sneak me extra tokens when Dad wasn't around. At least we still have the other Joe, but he's been acting weird lately.
The final note is found in the basement night. If you go to Chica's room, on a chair next to the wall is where the note lays. It reads,
Me and the guys are planning something for Evan's birthday. We're gonna make him see that Fredbears isn't scary. He needs to toughen up.
Through these notes, it's very obvious that they were all written by Michael Afton. And that last note is especially eerie, confirming that the act that ends up getting Evan killed was premeditated. Now granted, clearly from this note we see they weren't trying to harm him, and it's framed in this game that Michael actually really cares about Evan and wants him to be tougher and not so scared of Fredbears like we know he is. And nothing confirms this more than the true ending. After collecting all 6 notes, we'll be able to open the FNAF 4 box, and we get to hear from Michael himself, now completely alone with no family left.
Evan, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm so sorry. I didn't think you would go that far. think that you were always scared of that place, and I made it worse. I thought maybe you'd laugh, or at least see it wasn't real. Dad's gone. Right after it happened, his body disappeared, just vanished. Now it's just me. I didn't mean to hurt you, Evan. I didn't mean to scare you. I just wanted you to stop crying. To stop being afraid. But I messed up. I'm gonna fix it. I don't know how yet, but I will. I'll stay here. I will put you back together, and then I'm gonna go find him. I'm going to go find Dad. Wherever he is. I don't care how long it takes. Evan, just don't leave me too.
So, here we learn what will motivate Michael to do what he did in the first 2 Click Team games. After the spring lock failure, William's body disappeared, implying that, as he always says, he always comes back. Michael sets out on his quest to find his father, and Forgotten at Fredbears comes to a close. Overall, I think Forgotten at Fredbears is an insanely good retelling of the origin story of what started all the conflict in Five Nights at Freddy's. It's easy to follow, yet there are several little things you can pick up on early in the game that hint towards what's going to happen, and I love that. I do think that the night section gameplay mechanics are pretty weak, and I do believe that the post-night sections are where this game truly shines. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game doesn't compare to the other newer FNAF fan games? Let me know in the comments below. In my Chica's Party World Rebaked video, I asked you guys what FNAF fan game you'd like to see get a sequel, and my favorite answer was this one by FaZe Rings. They said After Hours at Cody's, and I agree. I would love to get another Cody's game. The first one was so innovative and tried a bunch of fun things. I would love to see another entry in the series. The question of this video is, what are some non-FNAF horror games you'd like to see me cover in the future, and why? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you to these 3 talented fans for your fan art. You can send yours in the Discord, link in the description. Thank you to all of my super fan channel members. You guys drank out of the Riz jug. That's a chug jug, but full of Riz.